A muffled sound, a sudden wound, the phantom weight of a hand on a thigh. Stability is a thin veneer, and the first thread is already coming loose. To understand the fracture, you must subscribe and witness the opening. He heard a muffled sound, and his arm was pierced with an almost through-and-through wound. "Ah!" Sun Chaozong screamed in pain. He quickly withdrew and retreated, distancing himself from Jiang Fan, unexpectedly. Jiang Fan showed no intention of engaging in a prolonged fight. Taking advantage of the opponent's retreat, he used his movement technique to nimbly circle around him, and thrusted his sword toward Tai Bubai on the carriage. Tai Bubai was both shocked and furious, standing up with his muscles tensed, resembling an iron block. He sneered, "Can you kill an old man like me?" The previous sword of Jiang Fan's had allowed him to gauge Jiang Fan's strength. With the opponent's swordsmanship, he couldn't harm him at all. He could break the opponent's swordsmanship with just his muscles, unexpectedly. As he approached the carriage, Jiang Fan suddenly moved the black sword to his left hand, his right hand gripping the sword hilt on his back, drawing it out with a clang. A dazzling purple light suddenly flashed in the world. With a cold, peerless sharpness, he slashed at Tai Bubai from top to bottom. At the same time, Sun Chaozong was indeed a master of body techniques. Both arms were pierced, the bones cracked, yet his combat power was undiminished. "Hurt my master and you will die." His fists pounded like two fierce tigers, striking at Jiang Fan's back. As it was, even if Jiang Fan killed Tai Bubai, he would suffer Sun Chaozong's full-force blow. His heart would be shattered. But Jiang Fan showed no intention of evading. Gripping the purple sword, he roared angrily and slashed down fiercely. As the purple sword approached, Tai Bubai realized the extraordinariness of this sword with a horrified expression on his face. Panic screamed, "Stop! Stop! What enmity do I have with you?" Ah! The sword chi of the purple sword was incredibly terrifying. It could annihilate everything from a distance before it was fully slashed down. Tai Bubai's immensely powerful iron body was split in two like tofu. In his eyes, there was a lingering look of unwillingness. Until his death, he couldn't believe it, that he, the great elder of the mighty giant sect, died just like that. "Master," Sun Chaozong witnessed this scene, roaring with eyes wide open in grief. Two unparalleled fists pounded fiercely on Jiang Fan's back. Boom! Jiang Fan was instantly blasted away. But just before being blown away, he forcibly twisted his body and swung a sword behind him with all his might. Then his entire body flew 5 or 6 zhang away, crashing onto a giant rock, with a loud crash. The rock shattered into pieces. Jiang Fan lay in a pile of dust, coughing violently, his mouth full of bloody foam. His upper body clothing was shattered by the terrifying punch, exposing a blue protective armor. It was the top-grade armor he had purchased at the auction at great expense, capable of withstanding a blow from the 5th level of core formation. He lay in the stone debris for a long time before regaining his composure, struggling to get up. "Luckily, I had this armor." Jiang Fan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, feeling fortunate. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to exchange life for life. He looked up at Sun Chaozong. The strike he made before being blown away should have given him a serious injury, right? Walking over to take a look. But he only found one of Sun Chaozong's arms. He had already fled. Looking closely, a retreating figure was rapidly heading towards the major town. Jiang Fan thought to himself, if he chased now, he should be able to catch up before he reached the major town. However, the movement just now was huge. There was no guarantee that the strong ones from the major town wouldn't come over. Besides, his target was Tai Bubai. Since he was dead, it was better to retreat immediately to avoid unnecessary complications. Of course, he didn't forget to thoroughly search Tai Bubai's body, to Jiang Fan's dismay, because he was split in two. The 5 crystal tokens worth 100,000 each on him were all cut in half. The Gale Pearl acquired by the giant sect at the auction was also completely shattered. "The power of the purple sword is too great, it's not always a good thing." Jiang Fan couldn't help but complain. However, to Jiang Fan's surprise, in a pouch slung sideways at his waist, there was an exquisite wooden box. Opening it, it turned out to be a stone that seemed to be burning. "The Phoenix Bloodstone? It's actually the Phoenix Bloodstone." Jiang Fan couldn't believe it. This was the body refinement material necessary for cultivating the 2nd layer of the Iron Blood True Scripture. This item had long disappeared from the 9-sect land. It hadn't appeared for decades. Tai Bubai had one in his possession. There's hope for the 2nd layer of the Iron Blood True Scripture. If I can cultivate to the 2nd layer, the Phoenix Blood Treasure Body, my physique will be so strong that I won't fear Sun Chaozong, and I might even be able to crush him. He carefully stored it like a precious treasure. After finally checking and confirming there was nothing left, he immediately used his movement technique to flee quickly. Not long after, Sun Chaozong, clutching his severed arm, arrived with several powerful body technique masters. Upon seeing Tai Bubai's death, their eyes couldn't help but tremble. What kind of sword is this to cut the great elder Tai into 2 pieces with 1 slash? The cut is smooth, even the broken bones have no burrs, showing this sword is incredibly sharp, something even a top-grade magic weapon couldn't achieve. No matter what it is, we must find out. Killing the great elder of the giant sect, this is an irreconcilable enmity. From today, investigate all purple long swords within the 9-sect land. If we don't find this person, the giant sect will never rest. When Jiang Fan returned to the Green Cloud sect, the news had already been rapidly transmitted to the sect. Liu Wuchen had even convened the elders of each peak because of this. They looked surprised. Liu Wuchen sighed. Fortunately, he died within the giant sect's territory. If he had died within our Green Cloud sect, we wouldn't be able to explain ourselves. When Hong Yao muttered, "If we had known this, it would have been better to execute him directly that day." How thrilling, our Green Cloud sect almost bore the crime of assassinating the great elder of the giant sect. Zhao Wuji and several elders nodded in agreement. Liu Wuchen also felt a bit regretful, saying, "Indeed, we didn't consider it thoroughly that day." Publicly executing Tai Bubai, the giant sect would have no reason and wouldn't dare to say anything. However, if Tai Bubai died mysteriously within the Green Cloud sect, it would be the Green Cloud sect's fault, and the giant sect would definitely seek retribution. His overly compassionate decision almost brought trouble to the Green Cloud sect. He awkwardly changed the subject, but who killed Tai Bubai? Striking just after crossing the border, it is clear this person was considerate of the Green Cloud sect, not wanting the Green Cloud sect to get into trouble. However, even with his tendons severed, Tai Bubai's physique was already unrivaled. Without the strength of the second level of core formation, it's impossible to kill him. Do we have such a person in the Green Cloud sect? Or was it one of the elders who did it? Everyone shook their heads. Why would they kill him for no reason? Liu Wuchen was puzzled. Strange, does the Green Cloud sect still hide an unknown strong expert? After thinking for a long time without understanding, Liu Wuchen decided not to ask any more, saying, "Tomorrow is the disciple grading. Great Elder, this time it's your peak presiding, are you ready?" Due to the recent incident, the Great Elder was heavily criticized, which greatly damaged his prestige. So he was planning to restore his prestige. That was by undermining the sect master peak's prestige to the same low level as his own. The method was simple. During the disciple grading this time, he would rate the disciples of the sect master peak as low as possible. In this way, the prestige of the sect master peak would be damaged, and reincarnation peak wouldn't look so disappointing. Feng Guchen said slowly, "Rest assured, sect master, this elder has already made arrangements. As for you, sect master, are you ready? Don't let any unqualified disciples appear, otherwise they will be expelled from the sect, and you will be humiliated as well." Liu Wuchen immediately thought of Jiang Fan, his face darkened. He snorted, "That's none of your concern," speaking of Jiang Fan. After returning, he went straight to the other courtyard. He quickly closed the door, then eagerly released the little Kirin and said excitedly, "Where's the jade talisman? Quick, let me see it." This killing device, powerful enough to shock the 9-sect land, actually fell into his hands. This made it difficult for him to stay calm. The little Kirin stretched out its tiny claw and rummaged under its furry armpit, and pulled out a palm-sized, fiery red jade talisman. It was bright crimson throughout, with a lustrous hue that had not dimmed despite the passage of time. This showed the extraordinary material. Intricate runes were carved on its surface. Just one glance at it made Jiang Fan dizzy, as if his mind was being torn apart by these runes. He quickly shook his head and averted his gaze, avoiding looking at the runes. Only then did his mind become clear. As expected of a nascent soul-strike jade talisman, even looking at it isn't something you can do casually. Jiang Fan marveled secretly. He quickly fetched a brand new jade box and carefully placed it inside. This was his strongest life-saving trump card to date. Even if he encountered a sect master, he would have nothing to fear. Next, he took out the phoenix bloodstone he found on Tai Bubai. His eyes were filled with anticipation. "Whether I can refine the phoenix blood treasure body depends on you." He gathered some auxiliary materials and prepared a large bucket of cold water. First, he crushed the auxiliary materials and blended their juices into the water. Finally, he carefully placed the phoenix bloodstone into the bucket. In an instant, upon contact with water, the phoenix bloodstone dissolved into clusters of fiery red droplets, turning the entire bucket of water red. It emitted an overwhelming energy. The little Qilin sniffed the air and immediately gleamed as it jumped next to the bucket, lowering its head to take a big gulp. But the next moment, it suddenly clutched its throat, falling to the ground in pain and rolling around. Its brown fur instantly turned a fiery red, as if it was about to catch fire. "Master, I'm going to die, it's so hot, it's killing me," Jiang Fan chuckled. "See if you still want to be greedy. You want to put everything in your mouth. This is the phoenix bloodstone. Even touching it burns like a branding iron. And you dared to swallow it?" The little Qilin rolled on the ground in agony, feeling like it was dying. "I won't dare anymore. Master, please save me." Jiang Fan then lifted it and used spiritual power to force the mouthful of blood-red potion out of its body. Sizzle, when the potion hit the ground, it melted the blue brick floor, creating a small pit as deep as a pinky finger. This was even scarier than poison. He tossed a revitalizing pill to the little Qilin, letting it heal its injuries on the side. Then he himself approached the blood-red potion. Gritting his teeth, he took off his clothes and jumped right in. In an instant, Jiang Fan let out a piercing scream. He felt like he had been thrown into lava alive. The inhuman pain made him, who considered himself strong, scream relentlessly. He instinctively wanted to jump out. But recalling the scene of his near-death encounter with son Chaozong, he gritted his teeth and forced himself to stay in. Not just that, he compelled himself to forcibly circulate the iron blood true scripture, absorbing a little phoenix blood into his body, tempering his internal organs, bones, and meridians. The pain was imaginable. Fortunately, after enduring the initial extreme pain, his body adapted. His teeth gnashed, and he silently endured the immense pain, extracting the phoenix blood bit by bit. By the next morning, the bucket was clear, with every drop of the phoenix blood absorbed. Jiang Fan shed layers of dead skin, revealing new, tender, and fair skin underneath. With phoenix blood entering his body, it burned both inside and out, making him look as if reborn. As Jiang Fan slowly opened his eyes, he found himself covered in layers of dead skin, which was quite alarming. He hurried to take a bath. After washing up, he noticed that all the little scars, marks, and even moles on his body were gone, replaced by an enviably fair and smooth body. His already handsome face looked even more pristine and clean. At a glance, he seemed like a bookworm. It was hard to imagine he was a body refiner who had attained the phoenix blood treasure body, very different from the hulking and rough frames of the giant sect martial artists. "This is too ridiculously pale." Looking in the mirror, Jiang Fan couldn't help but sigh. "I look like I would start whining if someone punched me." Clang, 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 just as he was about to further examine his body's changes, a distant tolling of a bell resounded from the plaza. Jiang Fan's heart trembled. He hadn't forgotten what day it was. Disciple grading. Only disciples who achieved a good grade or above could go to the border to resist the beast tide and exchange their merits for the heavenly mechanism pavilion's rich resources. He immediately put on clean and presentable white clothes and hurried down the mountain to the plaza. Disciples from various peaks arrived one after another. They greeted each other warmly. Very soon, Jiang Fan spotted Su Yoren and Chen Silin coming together. They were chatting and laughing, seeming very confident about the disciple grading. Jiang Fan approached and said with a smile, "Yoren, Silin." The two women turned and looked both stunned. Su Yoren frowned and said, "Who are you?" Chen Silin also showed a warning look. "Don't call out randomly, huh?" She paused, examining Jiang Fan's face, and said in confusion, "Sister Yoren, why does he look so much like Jiang Fan?" Su Yoren was also taken aback. "He looks too much like him, almost carved from the same mold. Just much fairer than Jiang Fan." Jiang Fan, finding it amusing and exasperating, said, "It's me. Can't you recognize my voice?" The two women were shocked. Su Yoren couldn't believe it. "Jiang Fan, what happened to you? How come you suddenly look like a different person? I didn't dare to recognize you." Chen Silin touched Jiang Fan's cheek and jealously said, "So fair and tender, better than my skin? It's hard to believe this is a man's skin." Jiang Fan gave a wry smile and secretly told them about his body refinement. "What kind of body refinement can make your skin this good? I want to learn it too," Chen Silin shouted. Su Yoren said wistfully, "Keeping good things to yourself and training alone." Jiang Fan gave a bitter smile. "Body refinement isn't something you can endure." Thinking about yesterday's training, he still felt a lingering fear. At this moment, A tall, sharp-eyed disciple approached with the flattery of many others trailing behind. "Senior Brother Tang, this is a piece of heavenly material and earthly treasure I found during training. Please accept it." "Senior Brother Tang, last time you promised me that you'd let me pass. You can't go back on your word." As the disciple grading drew near, those disciples who usually slacked off began to seek last-minute help, trying to curry favor with Tang Tianlong, hoping he'd go easy during the assessment and let them pass. Tang Tianlong enjoyed this feeling of having others' fates in his hands, feeling quite pleased internally. Suddenly, he noticed two stunningly beautiful female disciples affectionately accompanied by a scholarly-looking young man. Looking closer, he couldn't help but be surprised. Jiang Fan? At this moment, Jiang Fan's skin was fair and his demeanor was clean. He had become much more handsome. This annoyed Tang Tianlong, and he walked over briskly with a forced smile. "Junior Brother Jiang, seeing you happily chatting with the two junior sisters, you must be confident in passing the disciple grading." Jiang Fan was having a great time chatting with the two women. Interrupted out of the blue, he felt annoyed. He responded indifferently, "If you're the assessor, then there should be no problem." Tianlong originally wanted to put some pressure on Jiang Fan. He wanted him to learn from other disciples, flatter him, and beg him. Of course, even if Jiang Fan really begged him, he wouldn't go easy on him. He just wanted to mess with Jiang Fan. He didn't expect Jiang Fan to be so defiant, to show him such disrespect in public, and even speak arrogantly that as long as he's the one assessing, there would be no problem. He couldn't help but smirk as he looked Jiang Fan up and down. "Oh, where does your confidence come from? That you can certainly pass my assessment. You should understand that whether I take it seriously or not makes a big difference. If I take it seriously, even those at the 7th layer of foundation establishment will barely pass with a qualified evaluation. If I don't take it seriously, even those at the 1st layer of foundation establishment can pass. Understand?" He smiled meaningfully. His words were full of threats, meaning it would be easy to kick Jiang Fan out of the Green Cloud sect, all depending on his mood. Jiang Fan felt relieved after hearing this. "Then I feel reassured," for he had already reached the 7th layer of foundation establishment. At least he wouldn't end up with an unqualified evaluation. As for getting a good grade, it didn't seem too hard. Huh. Tang Tianlong felt annoyed. It was like punching a cotton ball. He bluntly said, "Jiang Fan, if you beg me sincerely now, perhaps I will be merciful and not make things difficult for you. Letting you pass the assessment is just a matter of a word from me. If you remain this clueless, don't blame me for being strictly by the book." Such blatant threats were openly spoken. It showed how brazen he was. The surrounding disciples all pretended not to hear. They still needed favors from Tang Tianlong. Su Yoren, seeing that both sides were about to clash, sensibly took out a bottle of foundation establishment pills to represent Jiang Fan in softening their stance. But before she could speak, Jiang Fan snatched the foundation establishment pill, giving her a reproachful look. "Do you think foundation establishment pills are free?" He thought it was the top-grade foundation establishment pill he gave himself. Upon opening it, it turned out to be a low-grade foundation establishment pill. He couldn't help showing a look of disdain. These days, he found such pills cumbersome to carry. At that moment, a disciple from the outer sect of Sect Master Peak was walking a big yellow dog from the peak. Jiang Fan immediately called out, "Hey, Big Yellow!" Upon hearing Jiang Fan's voice, the big yellow dog ran over immediately, rubbing affectionately against his legs. "Here, eat this." Jiang Fan poured the foundation establishment pill onto the ground. The crowd was immediately astonished. What is he doing, feeding the month's low-grade foundation establishment pill to a dog? What does he mean by this? A low-grade foundation establishment pill is worth a full 100 crystal stones. Someone wanted to step forward and stop him, but Big Yellow quickly snatched it up and swallowed it whole. Then it gratefully wagged its tail at Jiang Fan. Jiang Fan patted its head and said, "Yoren, did you see that? Give this low-grade foundation establishment pill to a dog and it will wag its tail and please you. Give it to some people and they will laugh at you and think you're a fool easy to manipulate. Understand?" Su Yoren rolled her eyes at him. "Educating me now, are you?" But she understood that Jiang Fan wasn't entirely wrong. If Tang Tianlong had made up his mind to ostracize Jiang Fan, no amount of goodwill would help. Instead, they would only be mocked and ridiculed. Chen Silin, being more experienced than Su Yoren, had already seen that Tang Tianlong intended to toy with them. She bent down and petted the big yellow dog, smiling. "Husband is right. Better to give the foundation establishment pill to a dog than to some people, because they are not even as good as dogs." She and Jiang Fan echoed each other, implying insults. This made Tang Tianlong's expression stiffen. He gritted his teeth and growled, "Jiang Fan, are you looking to die?" He couldn't understand. Did Jiang Fan not realize his fate was in his hands? If he didn't want Jiang Fan to pass, it just took a flick of his finger. "Who's making noise here?" An irritable voice came through. The disciples around Tang Tianlong immediately scattered like birds and beasts. Because they recognized it, this was Wen Hongyao, known for her fiery temper in the Green Cloud sect. No disciple wanted to provoke her. The crowd parted. Wen Hongyao naturally saw Jiang Fan. Her dark face brightened up immediately, smiling as she approached, volunteering a greeting. "Kid, any issue with your disciple rating?" Jiang Fan cupped his hands. "Thanks for Elder Wen's concern, this disciple is confident." Hearing this, Wen Hongyao's face turned stern. She said to Tang Tianlong nearby, "You're the one assessing this disciple, right?" This Elder Wen was someone Tang Tianlong didn't dare provoke either, so he hurriedly saluted. Responding to Elder Wen, "Yes, it's me." Wen Hongyao pointed at Jiang Fan, "Be strict with this kid. It's best if he doesn't pass, so he's expelled from the Green Cloud sect and loses his disciple qualifications. Then I can take him into my medicine peak." Having said that, she left chuckling. Jiang Fan's forehead broke into a sweat. Wen Hongyao still wanted to take him as a disciple. Watching Wen Hongyao leave, Tang Tianlong looked back at Jiang Fan, finally understanding where his confidence came from. "All right, now I see why you dare to defy me. Turns out you've latched onto Elder Wen's support. I really underestimated you to be able to charm Elder Wen, truly impressive." Su Yoren and Chen Silin were both stunned. They knew Wen Hongyao's temper. She never showed any kindness to her disciples at her peak, let alone outer sect disciples. They didn't expect her to treat Jiang Fan differently. No wonder he was so confident in passing the assessment. Jiang Fan shrugged. He had nothing to explain. "Humph," Tang Tianlong snorted. "What if you have Elder Wen's backing? I'm telling you, even if Sect Master Liu backs you, it's useless, because this assessment will be personally supervised by the Supreme Elder. No one dares to tamper with your evaluation." Disciples' ratings were crucial matters for the sect, because they affected each disciple's future treatment and status in the Green Cloud sect. They also impacted the strength of each peak and their future resource allocation. Moreover, it involved the qualification for this beast-tied defense. Jiang Fan nodded slightly. "Then I am completely reassured." With the Supreme Elder personally supervising, Tang Tianlong and Feng Guchen could only pull some minor tricks. They wouldn't dare to manipulate the ratings at will. As long as he didn't perform too poorly, getting a good rating wouldn't be difficult. Tang Tianlong snorted, "Keep talking tough. I want to see who will back you when you get eliminated." No sooner had he finished speaking. A sudden exclamation came from the disciples. "That's Carefree Peak's Supreme Elder's mount. It's Supreme Elder Huang." Everyone looked up to see a double-headed black hawk flying over their heads. Suddenly, Huang Zhanshan spotted Jiang Fan. He controlled the black hawk to circle and land in front of Jiang Fan, in the nearly stunned eyes of Tang Tianlong and all the disciples present. He walked up to Jiang Fan, rolling his eyes. "Kid, do you still need a rating? Who is qualified to rate you?" Other people might not know, but Huang Zhanshan knew very well how exceptional Jiang Fan's comprehension was. Sword Heart Engraving, he had recently understood, had definitely reached the level of an Earth-level technique. Who among the disciples in the sect could withstand such swordsmanship? They might very well be sent flying with just one strike from Jiang Fan's sword. Jiang Fan smiled wryly and said, "I am just an ordinary disciple. How could I be exempt from the disciple evaluation?" If he were like Liu Qingxian or Wang Chengjian, a disciple above the 8th layer of foundation establishment, then naturally there would be no need for evaluation, and he would directly be considered an outstanding disciple. But he was not. Currently, he was still one realm short. Huang Zhanshan moved his lips, wanting to grant Jiang Fan an exemption from the evaluation. But after considering that he was ultimately just a Supreme Elder, it was not suitable for him to interfere too much with the sect's internal affairs. So he advised, "You better take it easy. Don't injure the disciples conducting the evaluation." Jiang Fan smiled bitterly. He watched as Huang Zhanshan left for the observation platform with his hands behind his back. Meanwhile, a deathly silence had already descended around Jiang Fan. Su Yoren's eyes widened. "Fan, you know the Supreme Elder of Carefree Peak?" Jiang Fan nodded his chin and said, "I've met him once." But Chen Silin shook her head, her eyes gleaming with joy. "It doesn't look like you just know him. He seems very familiar with you." Jiang Fan rubbed his nose and muttered, "We're really not that close. We just met once and talked a little, just talked a little." The surrounding disciples' eyes nearly turned red. "You expect us to believe that nonsense? Just talked a little and the Supreme Elder would come down specifically to speak with you. Moreover, do you think a Supreme Elder is someone you can casually chat with?" Tang Tianlong stared dazedly at Jiang Fan. He never expected Jiang Fan to be acquainted with a Supreme Elder. He was extremely jealous, because he hadn't even managed to curry favor with the Supreme Elder of Reincarnation Peak. Yet Jiang Fan had befriended the Supreme Elder of Carefree Peak. No wonder he dares to be so arrogant. He actually has some backing. Too bad, this time there will be more than one Supreme Elder present. Even if Supreme Elder Huang wanted to help you cheat, he'd have to see if the other Supreme Elders would agree. Just then, the disciples in the distance let out another exclamation. They saw an old man with a disheveled beard and ragged clothes, gliding close to the ground on a rusty iron sword. If he could fly just a bit higher, one might almost mistake it for the legendary sword flight. It's Supreme Elder Shikaishan of Heavenly Sword Peak. Hasn't he been out training for decades? When did he come back? Tang Tianlong let out a cold laugh. See that, Jiang Fan? I told you there'd be more than one Supreme Elder attending, and this Supreme Elder Shikaishan despises treachery and deceit the most. If Supreme Elder Huang dares to cheat for you, he'll have to consider Shikaishan's temper and see if it's gotten any worse over the years. However, the next moment, Tang Tianlong was stunned. Shikaishan, riding on the iron sword, glided past the disciples with a blank expression. Suddenly, his peripheral vision caught sight of Jiang Fan. His mouth twitched and he stopped, saying, "Boy, what are you doing here?" Jiang Fan was speechless. Were these Supreme Elders too idle? Why did they all come over to add their 2 cents? He respectfully replied, "I'm here to participate in the evaluation." HM, Shikaishan's eyes widened. He had personally witnessed Jiang Fan defeating the Nai clan siblings of Heavenly Sword Peak. One was at the 8th layer of Foundation establishment, the other at the 7th. Both were rated as outstanding disciples by the sect. Jiang Fan defeated them so easily. Did his evaluation score need to be reassessed? Is your master that idle? With your level of strength, he still let you come out to participate in the disciple evaluation. Jiang Fan couldn't respond to this. A Supreme Elder could criticize Liu Wuchen, but what disciple would dare? Shikaishan rolled his eyes and said, "Take it easy. The disciple conducting the evaluation this time is only at the 8th layer of Foundation establishment. Don't hit too hard and cripple him." Jiang Fan watched speechlessly as he too went to the observation platform. The disciples around him now looked at him very differently. Before, everyone thought he was a lucky kid with no spirit root who managed to become Liu Wuchen's disciple. But now, no one dared think that way anymore. 2 Supreme Elders were very familiar with him. Who would dare to underestimate such connections? Even Tang Tianlong was stunned. He hadn't even managed to curry favor with one Supreme Elder. Yet Jiang Fan was on good terms with 2 at the same time. The more it was, the more he resented it, saying, "So what if you know 2 Supreme Elders? More Supreme Elders are around this time. If you want to rely on them to pass, let's see if the other Supreme Elders would agree." At that moment, another exclamation came from the disciples as yet another Supreme Elder arrived. It was Zhang Qiushuang of Flat Cloud Peak. When he passed by a group of disciples and saw Jiang Fan from a distance, he too showed a strange expression. Muttering, he said, "You brat, what are you doing here for the evaluation? Got nothing better to do?" Jiang Fan was exasperated, saying, "Supreme Elder, my abilities are insufficient. I must attend the evaluation." Zhang Qiushuang rolled his eyes and snorted, "You insufficient abilities? You're quite good at reverse bragging." With that, he left, leaving everyone in stunned silence. Yes, they were already numb. It seemed every Supreme Elder knew Jiang Fan, and they all had a high opinion of his abilities. How did he manage to gain so much favor from these Supreme Elders? Tang Tianlong was almost consuming with jealousy. Why? He worked so hard, but none of the Supreme Elders even glanced at him. Yet a worthless Jiang Fan with no spirit root received their favor. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "What are you gloating about? There are more Supreme Elders here this time." Another disciple quickly interrupted him. "Senior Brother Tang, don't say any more. If you keep going, another Supreme Elder might come to greet him." Tang Tianlong reluctantly closed his mouth. He gave Jiang Fan a hateful glare, secretly vowing, if Jiang Fan wanted to pass his evaluation, dream on. Sigh, Jiang Fan sighed helplessly. "I just want to quietly finish the disciple evaluation. One by one, they all come to cause trouble for me." Su Yoren rolled her eyes at him. being insincere after getting the benefit. You know they are very envious that you know 3 Supreme Elders. Chen Silin happily hugged his arm, smiling warmly. My husband is just that impressive, he, she thought to herself. Fortunately, the Supreme Elders didn't know that Jiang Fan was also a 3-star soul master. Otherwise, even more Supreme Elders would favor him. Just then, Liu Wuchen arrived on a flying crane. Following him were Wang Chengjian and a group of Sect Master Peak disciples. When Wang Chengjian saw Jiang Fan from afar, he frowned and said, "Why are you wandering around alone? Hurry over and join the discussion." Chen Silin's brows furrowed. She said, "Husband, this guy is so annoying. Perform well later and make sure he never looks down on you again." Jiang Fan nodded slightly. Wang Chengjian, relying on his status as the big senior brother, constantly targeted him. He had let many things slide before. Those were mere trifles. But last time, during the evaluation conducted by the Supreme Elder of Sect Master Peak, Wang Chengjian intentionally framed Jiang Fan, almost getting him expelled from the sect. This score could not be settled lightly. Fan patted the shoulders of the 2 women. You guys should also go and prepare well. Try to get a good rating and also acquire the qualification to resist the beast tide. Su Yoren nodded and said, Husband, you don't need to worry about us. Xiling and I are now training under the Supreme Elder. We're considered half his disciples. Tang Tianlong wouldn't dare to trouble us under his watchful eye. Upon hearing this, Jiang Fan felt relieved. He took out 2 bottles of revitalizing pills, 1 for each, and handed them to the 2 women. Keep them well, don't let anyone see them. Chen Silin curiously opened one and saw the green pills shining inside. She immediately recognized what they were, exclaiming, Aren't these the pills sold for 200,000 crystals each at the auction a few days ago? Jiang Fan quickly covered her mouth and gave her a light knock on the head. Do you want the whole world to know you have revitalizing pills? Chen Silin rubbed her sore head. Only then did she understand why Jiang Fan had asked them to hide the pills well. These were 10 revitalizing pills worth 2 million crystals. If people found out, it would surely bring disaster upon them. She happily tucked the bottle into her robes, saying, Thank you, husband. Su Yoren also smiled brightly. Husband is so kind to us. The 2 beautiful faces, glowing like peach blossoms, made Jiang Fan take an extra glance. Hearing Wang Chengjian urging him impatiently, he reluctantly said, You 2, never mind, take care. Watching his hesitant departure, Su Yoren smirked. Did you see the way he looked at us just now? Chen Silin blushed slightly, complaining, What's the use of looking? If he's so bold, why doesn't he kiss us in front of everyone, coward? Jiang Fan reached the gathering point for the disciples of Sect Master Peak. Wang Chengjian came up and started berating him. The disciple rating affects the honor and disgrace of Sect Master Peak. Are you so confident in yourself? Instead of preparing well, you're flirting with the female disciples of Heavenly Sword Peak. They have Supreme Elder Shikaishan covering them, but who is covering you? Jiang Fan pouted. You talk like you're the one taking part in the disciple rating. The Emperor isn't anxious, but the eunuch is. Wang Chengjian laughed in anger. He actually dared to talk back to him. He was the big senior brother of Sect Master Peak. Master, look at Jiang Fan. Is this acceptable? He doesn't listen to a word I say. He turned to complain to Liu Wuchen. He expected Liu Wuchen to berate Jiang Fan harshly as usual. Unexpectedly, Liu Wuchen turned the criticism back on him. Chengjian, why are you so hot-tempered? Jiang Fan was just talking with his 2 wives to ease some tension. It's no big deal. Saying this, he waved Jiang Fan over with a smile. Come here. Jiang Fan walked to him, as respectful as ever. Master, what are your instructions? Liu Wuchen put his arm around his shoulder, discontented. You're always so reserved in front of me, I won't eat you. Jiang Fan wanted to hit him at this moment. Did he forget how he used to treat Jiang Fan before? Just seeing Jiang Fan annoyed him. Could Jiang Fan not be obedient? Last time, Jiang Fan resolved the extortion incident with Tai Bubai, earning great merit. Liu Wuchen's impression of him improved significantly, leading to the current change. This is for you, take it. Liu Wuchen pulled out a jade talisman from his robe. It was somewhat similar to a nascent soul jade token, crafted from jade and inscribed with complex runes. But its power was naturally not comparable. It was estimated to have the power of a blow from the 9th layer of foundation establishment. When Tang Tianlong strikes at you later, don't hold back, just crush it directly, Liu Wuchen whispered. Wang Chengjian looked incredulous. This time, Liu Wuchen not only didn't criticize Jiang Fan, he even took out a treasured attack jade talisman to help Jiang Fan overcome difficulties. Even his most favored disciple, Tao Zhengjun, who was adept at dual cultivation of body and magic, didn't receive such treatment. The other disciples were filled with envy. Given the relationship between Sect Master Peak and Reincarnation Peak, and the fact that the disciple rating was linked to the qualification to resist the beast tide, impacting the overall strength improvement of the disciples. Tang Tianlong, as the examiner, would undoubtedly do everything to make things difficult for the disciples of Sect Master Peak, turning good ratings into acceptable ones, turning acceptable ones into failed ones. Among them, Jiang Fan was considered the most unlikely to pass. He didn't have a spirit root, his strength was weak, and he had a grudge with Tang Tianlong. He was 100% likely to fail. Unexpectedly, the sect leader gave him special attention, gave him such a precious jade talisman. This baffled them all, because the incident with Tai Bubai and his extortion, although damaging to the reputation of Green Cloud Sect, was kept secret. So no one knew about it yet, not even knowing Jiang Fan was the one who resolved it. Jiang Fan was also very surprised. He was not used to Liu Wuchen suddenly being so good to him. He carefully put it away, saying, "Thank you, Master." Liu Wuchen patted his shoulder, then gathered the disciples to one place, explaining in detail the rules and precautions of the test. Without realizing it, the time for the disciple rating to officially begin had arrived. Several Supreme Elders, who rarely showed up usually, appeared in the stands. The disciples participating in the rating gathered in groups according to their sects. Tang Tianlong, as the examiner, stood in the center of the plaza. He called the participating disciples to come forward for sparring by drawing lots randomly. Those who could withstand 3 of his moves would be considered qualified. Those who could withstand 10 moves would be considered good. Those who could withstand 100 moves would be considered excellent. Therefore, disciples who were not strong enough would primarily focus on defense to successfully pass the test. Enduring 3 moves would be considered qualified. However, with Tang Tianlong's formidable strength, 3 moves could be powerful or weak. If he didn't want someone to pass, even a 6th-layer foundation establishment disciple would struggle to withstand 3 moves from him. "Let's begin," Liu Wuchen announced the start of the test. Then he stood next to his own Supreme Elder Zhuang Yunian. He had just arrived. Shi Kaishan, sitting nearby, glared fiercely at Liu Wuchen. "You're ruthless." Jiang Fan should have belonged to Heavenly Sword Peak. Instead, Liu Wuchen snatched him away midway. These past few days, he had grown increasingly angry thinking about it, increasingly upset. Liu Wuchen was at a loss. Zhuang Yunian also muttered, "Wuchen, what did you do to offend him? He's glaring at you like that." Liu Wuchen was bewildered. "Master, I wouldn't dare to offend Supreme Elder Shi with his temper, you know that." "I'd avoid him if I could. Why would I provoke him?" Zhuang Yunian looked surprised. "Have you neglected Heavenly Sword Peak over the years? Although he has a bad temper, he's not a resentful person. His intense anger towards you must be because you did something that made it hard for him to swallow his pride." Liu Wuchen cried out in grievance. "Master, I didn't. I treat all the peaks equally, not shortchanging Heavenly Sword Peak in any resources." Zhuang Yunian was also puzzled. "Never mind, let's not worry about it now. The disciple rating has begun." They watched Tang Tianlong walk to a wooden box. It was filled with slips of paper with names written on them. He closed his eyes, drew a slip, opened it, and read, "Sect Master Peak Tao Zhengjun." The crowd's expressions turned interesting. Everyone knew Tang Tianlong wouldn't let the disciples of Sect Master Peak pass easily. No one expected that the first one drawn would be from Sect Master Peak. Jiang Fan looked up. He wanted to see how Tang Tianlong would suppress the disciples of Sect Master Peak. Being called by name, Tao Zhengjun immediately stood up, his burly body striding like a thunderbolt to the center of the field. Knowing very well that Tang Tianlong had ill intentions, he faced it without fear, mobilizing the spiritual power of the 5th layer of foundation establishment, and shouted, "Come on!" Tang Tianlong said with a blank expression, "Good." Immediately, he displayed a set of fist skills with the wind from his fists forcing people back, generating whistling sounds. Liu Wuchen saw this and slammed the table in anger. "Shameless, aren't you? Directly using the strongest 5 elements fist of Reincarnation Peak. And he's using the strength of Foundation Establishment 8th layer with full force. This is a pace to beat someone to death." Everyone knew Tang Tianlong's ill intentions, but no one expected him to be so ruthless. The other peak masters also frowned one after another. It is just an assessment, supposed to evaluate disciples' cultivation technique, combat experience, and so on. Coming up with the crushing strength of foundation establishment, eighth layer isn't evaluating the other side. It's intentionally eliminating the other side. Reincarnation peak went too far. Although the elders had their grudges, Feng Guchen, however, maintained a normal expression and argued confidently. Real gold does not fear the test of fire. If Sect Master Peak's disciples are truly strong, how would they fear my disciple Tang Tianlong's full-force attack? Only the useless think of muddling through. Watching on the stage, Tao Zhengzhen struggling to cope, Feng Guchen felt content. Originally, he didn't want to be so obvious. But who made him encounter a big mistake on the nascent Soul Jade token, becoming the sect's sinner? He had to ensure that Sect Master Peak ended with no good disciples today, making Sect Master Peak a joke. Thus, others would not just talk about how Reincarnation Peak was not up to standard. Eighth move, get lost! Despite Tao Zhengzhen's angry counterattack, fearlessly facing Tang Tianlong's harsh suppression, regretfully the gap in realms and being a newcomer disciple in cultivation technique, he was naturally hard to match him. On the eighth move, he finally couldn't resist and was struck flying by Tang Tianlong's palm. Tao Zhengzhen's sturdy body flew backward, hitting a sharp wooden pile. Seeing this, Jiang Fan immediately rushed forward, catching him effortlessly. Shooting a cold glance at Tang Tianlong, he said, "Do you have to resort to such unscrupulous means?" Suppressing wasn't enough, he had to be this ruthless. Completely disregarding the life and death of Sect Master Peak's disciples, Tang Tianlong said with a blank expression, being inferior to others and still blaming others for going all out. If all Sect Master Peak disciples are this useless, just save your efforts and roll back to your peak. Get lost, do not disturb my disciple assessment. He walked to the wooden box and drew another slip of paper. Next, Kui Yunfeng Wang Yanren. Wang Yanren was an old disciple, with the cultivation of the fifth layer of foundation establishment. Jiang Fan was not unfamiliar with her. She was the female disciple who had flattered Tang Tianlong, claiming that Tang Tianlong had promised her. What kind of shady deal they had done privately was unknown. But when Tang Tianlong made his move, he suppressed his spiritual power and used a simple and mediocre fist skill. Wang Yanren coped with ease, effortlessly lasting beyond 10 moves. Tang Tianlong smiled and said, "Wang Yanren rated as good." Wang Yanren was overjoyed and retreated happily. This made Sect Master Peak's disciples feel indignant. Unfair. Wang Yanren had previously fought junior brother Tao and couldn't withstand even 5 moves. Ridiculously, she gets a good rating while junior brother Tao only gets a passing one. Such obvious differential treatment, what fairness can there be? Liu Wuchen was also furious. He bowed to Zhuang Yunian and the several Supreme Elders present, requesting, "Supreme Elders, you have seen it all. Tang Tianlong is simply treating disciple rating as a joke. The ones who deserve to pass are not passed. The ones who do not deserve to pass are let through randomly." In response, the Supreme Elders frowned. Tang Tianlong's actions were really disappointing, severely impacting the fairness of disciple ratings. But after exchanging glances, they all chose to remain silent. Zhuang Yunian sighed and said, "Wuchen, this is your responsibility as the sect master. We Supreme Elders cannot interfere with sect affairs as per the rules. Otherwise, if every Supreme Elder breaks the rules, your generation will never have the chance to take up the heavy responsibility of the sect. Unless it affects major events determining the future direction of the sect, the Supreme Elders would rarely intervene. Even though knowing there were drawbacks as now, they had to refrain from interfering. They could only urge Liu Wuchen, the sect master, to resolve it himself. Liu Wuchen angrily punched the table. Damn it! If he had enough prestige, how would the great elder dare to be so presumptuous? At this moment, the assessment on the field went on in an orderly fashion. For disciples from other peaks, Tang Tianlong suppressed his realm. Only when drawing disciples from Sect Master Peak, regardless of gender and strength, he attacked with full force. Several disciples who could have received a good rating only got a barely passing rating. At this rate, Sect Master Peak might not have a single disciple with a good rating. As the strongest Sect Master Peak, it would create the worst record in history, enough to become a laughing stock. Sect Master Peak Jiang Fan? Suddenly, Tang Tianlong drew a slip of paper, unfolded it, revealing a sinister smile. He was waiting for Jiang Fan. For other Sect Master Peak disciples, he was merely following the Great Elder's orders, not giving them good ratings. Only Jiang Fan was the only one he personally wanted to deprive of a good rating. No, in his hands. Jiang Fan wouldn't even dream of getting a passing rating, wouldn't dream of it. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Jiang Fan slowly stood up, causing the disciples to discuss heavily. Another one to be fully attacked by Tang Tianlong. It's hard for him to get a good rating. What are you thinking? He is Jiang Fan, a disciple with no spirit root. Even lasting 3 moves is a problem. However, among the elders it was entirely different. When Hong Yao's eyes showed anticipation, not passing would be best, then I can snatch him back to Medicine Peak after he is driven out of Green Cloud Sect. Zhao Wuji rolled his eyes. What a dream. Do you think Jiang Fan is really that weak? With such great sword path talent, I don't believe his cultivation is that poor. Li Qingfeng wiped his face and sighed. It's over. Soon the whole sect will know Jiang Fan's true strength. It's going to be a big embarrassment. But at the level of Supreme Elders, it was another matter. Huang Zhanshan couldn't help glancing at Liu Wuchen, muttering. No wonder he wanted to get Jiang Fan on the stage. Turns out he had anticipated Tang Tianlong's intense targeting of Sect Master Peak. So he let Jiang Fan take action to harshly teach Tang Tianlong a lesson. Shi Kaishan snorted. Liu Wuchen, this old guy, looks clueless but does things quite brilliantly. I had thought he was just bored, letting Jiang Fan participate in the disciple rankings. It turns out he was waiting for this moment. Zheng Qiushuang shrugged. This disciple named Tang Tianlong, somewhat ignorant of the danger. Really think that Sect Master Peak is so easily bullied amidst the discussions. Jiang Fan stepped to the center of the square. Facing Tang Tianlong, he said indifferently, I originally wanted to just pass the assessment. Now I've changed my mind. Tianlong seemed to have heard the biggest joke in the world. You wanted to, changed your mind. Jiang Fan, are you joking with me? Making me laugh until I get cramps. Do you think you can pass? The disciples around were speechless. Does he even know what he's saying? He's acting as if he could pass the assessment whenever he wants. He doesn't see how miserable his senior brothers and sisters were, still talking nonsense without restraint. Among the disciples of Sect Master Peak, Wang Chengjian looked at Jiang Fan like a clown, saying playfully, this guy, he's not afraid of making people laugh their teeth off. He was the one, apart from Tang Tianlong, who most wanted Jiang Fan to fail. Of course, he was happy to see Jiang Fan make a fool of himself. Some disciples couldn't help but mutter, is it that funny? If Jiang Fan loses, isn't it our Sect Master Peak's face that's lost? How can senior brother laugh at this? Upon hearing this, Wang Chengjian quickly suppressed his laughter and defended himself. I'm angry that Jiang Fan isn't taking the assessment seriously. This also drew differing opinions from the disciples of Sect Master Peak. Does it matter if he's serious? Were any of the previous senior brothers and sisters not serious? If I were Jiang Fan, I'd scold him harshly. Yes, Jiang Fan is doing this for the honor of Sect Master Peak. We should support him instead. Wang Chengjian ended up being unpopular both inside and outside. He looked at Jiang Fan with even more displeasure. He couldn't wait to see Jiang Fan knocked to the ground within 3 moves, then receive a failed evaluation and be expelled from the sect. Liu Wuchen also heaved a long sigh. He really couldn't bear to watch anymore. Several of his prized disciples had all failed. Could he really rely on Jiang Fan to restore his honor? In other areas, Jiang Fan might be fine. On the martial path, he wasn't. What's the point of sighing? Zhuang Yunian wasn't in a good mood either. He wanted to find someone to vent his anger on, and Liu Wuchen sighing nearby only made him more annoyed. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for not pushing your disciples' training, giving others an opportunity. And during disciple recruitment, you didn't screen strictly, allowing just anyone into the sect. Now look, we're about to have a failed disciple. Let's see if you're embarrassed. He watched Jiang Fan's back from a distance, filled with anger. If a disciple didn't receive good evaluations, it could be explained by the disciple not trying hard enough or his teaching being inadequate. But failing, for over 10 years, there hadn't been a case of a failed disciple. Even the lowest-ranking peaks hadn't had a failure. Because those taking the assessment as inner sect disciples were all prodigies carefully selected by the peak masters. But now, that record was about to be broken, and by the strongest sect master peak, no less. If this unprecedented event got out, it wouldn't just be an embarrassment within the sect. It would be known throughout the 9-sect land, to the point of being a household joke. Sect Master Peak's reputation would plummet. Liu Wuchen smiled sheepishly and said softly, Supreme Elder, please rest assured. I secretly gave him a Foundation Establishment 9th layer jade talisman. Failing at least won't happen. Upon hearing this, Zhuang Yunian glared at him and scolded. What are you thinking? Though using jade talismans wasn't forbidden in disciple ratings, It was unbecoming to rely on external objects to win, making it easy to be criticized. But considering Tang Tianlong's malicious targeting of Sect Master Peak, using a jade talisman wasn't that bad. No one could say anything. His expression softened and he said, "Just this once, don't do it again." Liu Wuchen breathed a sigh of relief. He secretly felt proud of his foresight. This way, Jiang Fan at least had no problem passing the assessment. In the center of the stage, looking at the endlessly laughing Tang Tianlong, Jiang Fan said calmly, "Laugh as much as you can. You soon won't be able to laugh." Tang Tianlong, finding it increasingly funny, said, "Ha ha ha. Jiang Fan, you're really trying to kill me with laughter. Do you have no idea about the gap between us?" Seeing Jiang Fan's calm, unwavering expression, Tang Tianlong couldn't stop laughing. "All right, I'll let you personally experience how insignificant you are in front of me." He only used half of his spiritual power, casually throwing a punch at Jiang Fan. He didn't want to eliminate Jiang Fan too quickly. Instead, he wanted to torment him brutally from his body to his pride, to make him regret his actions. However, what surprised Tang Tianlong was that Jiang Fan showed no intention of using his spiritual power. He still kept his hands behind his back. It wasn't until Tang Tianlong's fist, carrying a fierce wind, reached Jiang Fan's face, that he unhurriedly extended one hand, casually catching Tang Tianlong's fist. No matter how Tang Tianlong's spiritual power shook, it couldn't move his palm. Jiang Fan calmly said, "Use all your strength so you can be convinced." With that said, he gently waved his hand. Tang Tianlong felt as if he were kicked by an elephant. He staggered backward continuously, almost falling on his butt, which caused an uproar from the crowd. "Huh, did I see it wrong?" Jiang Fan made Tang Tianlong retreat. That punch was no weak blow. Many senior disciples couldn't block it. Among the elders, there was also quite a bit of discussion. When Hong Yao, disappointed and dissatisfied, said, "This kid isn't playing by the rules. Wouldn't it have been great if he got knocked down with one punch?" Zhao Wuji crossed his arms over his chest, proudly saying, "See, I was right, wasn't I? This kid isn't weak in the martial path at all." Li Qingfeng, surprised, said, "Huh, that's strange. I feel like he's even stronger now." Among the Supreme Elders, some ripples appeared too. Huang Zhanshan blinked and said, puzzled, "How odd, not only is this kid's comprehension excellent, but he also seems to be an outstanding body refinement prodigy. He can even withstand attacks from the 8th layer of Foundation establishment." Shikaishin took a slight breath. "Hiss. This rascal, his physique has gotten stronger. It hasn't been that long, yet his body technique has progressed significantly." He then glared fiercely at Liu Wuchen. The grudge of stealing a disciple was set. Liu Wuchen was unnerved by Shikaishin's glare, bewildered. What did he do to offend Supreme Elder Shikaishin? That look was as if Shikaishin wanted to beat him up. Zhuang Yuanian looked surprised. "Huh, this kid's physique is this strong. Tang Tianlong's punch wasn't something an ordinary disciple could withstand. Moreover, not only did this kid withstand it, he even fought back." Liu Wuchen suddenly remembered that he hadn't properly introduced Jiang Fan. He immediately said, "I forgot to tell you Jiang Fan has good body refinement aptitude. During the ancestral ceremony, he defeated the body refinement prodigy Kong Wushuang of Giant Sect. He really boosted our sect Master Peak's reputation." Zhuang Yuanian, taken aback, said, "Is this true?" "I've heard of Kong Wushuang. He's Kong Yuanba's nephew and has shown extraordinary physique since childhood." "Jiang Fan beat him in body technique," Liu Wuchen said. "The entire sect witnessed it, it's no fake." Zhuang Yuanian was astonished, marveling. This guy has no spirit root, yet he's a top-notch body refinement prodigy. He immediately came to his senses, scrutinizing Liu Wuchen, and said, "Wuchen, be honest, did you take him as your disciple because you saw his body refinement talent?" "Huh, that wasn't the case at all. But since the Supreme Elder praised his perceptiveness, could he say no?" So with a sheepish grin, he said guiltily, "Exactly." Zhuang Yuanian, upon hearing this, playfully punched him in the chest. "I knew you didn't just give someone special treatment for no reason. So you were trying to surprise me. When did you get so sly?" Although it sounded like he was scolding, the smile on his face couldn't hide his inner joy. He took a deep breath, feeling content. "Ah, our sect Master Peak indeed has no weaklings. Even someone without a spirit root is a top-notch body refinement prodigy." He. Liu Wuchen was feeling increasingly guilty as he listened. Meanwhile, in the arena, the situation changed again. Tianlong barely managed to steady himself. His face was full of shock. The punch he threw was actually caught by Jiang Fan, and he almost embarrassed himself. "What did you just do?" He couldn't believe that was Jiang Fan's strength. It must have been some kind of magical treasure or jade talisman that caused that strength. Jiang Fan calmly looked at him. Why aren't you laughing anymore? Don't you love to laugh? These mocking words made Tang Tianlong both ashamed and angry. Look at how proud you are. I was just using less than half of my strength earlier. You got lucky and fooled me. Do you really think you're that great? He shook his body, and the spiritual power from the spirit pond surged through his body. He displayed the full power of the 8th layer of foundation establishment. Since you like to show off, I'll go all out. Let's see if you can keep showing off, he snorted coldly. With a stomp of his legs, he leapt forward like a great rock spreading its wings. He punched at Jiang Fan in midair. The observing disciples held their breath, especially the disciples of Sect Master Peak, who turned their heads away, unable to watch. All the Sect Master Peak disciples had been defeated by Tang Tianlong's full power attacks. Jiang Fan would be no exception. In their minds, they had already pictured Jiang Fan being blasted away by a punch, spitting blood as he was sent flying. Boom, a sudden muffled sound, shattered their imagined scene in their minds, attracted their gaze to the arena. A scene that stunned everyone appeared. Jiang Fan still stood in the same spot, still with one hand behind his back. Still used just one palm to casually catch Tang Tianlong's full power punch. In stark contrast to, Jiang Fan's face was as calm as ever, while Tang Tianlong's face contorted in pain. No one knew what it felt like for him when his punch landed on Jiang Fan's palm. It was not like hitting a person's palm, more like smashing onto a steel plate. The excruciating pain spread from his fist to his arm. Jiang Fan said lightly, "A full power strike, that's it?" As he finished speaking, he gave a light toss. In midair, Tang Tianlong was thrown like a paper airplane, gliding far away before finally crashing heavily into the ground and rolling several times. The hard granite ground was cracked in several places from the impact. This scene shocked the entire audience once again. In the Sect Master Peak, Wang Chengjian, who had been waiting to see Jiang Fan vomit blood and get knocked back, suddenly sat up and exclaimed, "How could this happen?" Tang Tianlong's full power strike was easily repelled by Jiang Fan. The Sect Master Peak disciples, who dared not look at the result, stared in amazement. Their eyes were also full of shock. What happened? Why is Tang Tianlong the one who got thrown out? How did junior brother Jiang do it? Disciples from other peaks also cried out in surprise one after another. Did I see this right? Jiang Fan defeated Tang Tianlong's full power attack. With one hand he defeated him. The elders were in an uproar. When Hong Yao looked shocked, this kid is actually so powerful. Even Zhao Wuji, who had guessed Jiang Fan's strength wasn't weak, was astounded. Damn it, his physique is this strong. An 8th layer foundation establishment full power strike couldn't do anything to him. Li Qingfeng's face grew increasingly ugly. This guy is much stronger than last time. Last time, Jiang Fan's physique could only handle a duel with Na Yunjuo at the 7th layer of foundation establishment. Against an 8th layer opponent, he still needed to use his cultivation. Now he no longer needed it at all. A simple punch without even using body techniques was a direct victory. His heart kept sinking. Especially when the elders gasped in amazement, he wore a pained expression. It's over. When he had left Jiang Fan on the plaza, it would now become a joke. The Supreme Elders were equally disturbed. Zheng Qiushuang exclaimed in shock, "Old Huang, your vision is amazing. You could see that this kid possessed such a strong body refinement technique." But he got no response from Huang Zhanshan. Turning his head, Huang Zhanshan was even more astonished than he was. Staring at Jiang Fan dumbfounded, he was speechless. Shi Kaishan was also deeply shocked. Earlier, we could say that Tang Tianlong wasn't serious. Now, the one who wasn't serious was Jiang Fan. Not long ago, when he had watched Jiang Fan use body techniques, he was not this strong. In just a few short days, he had transformed and reached another level. Such a prodigy they had missed out on at Heavenly Sword Peak. Thinking of this, he glared viciously at Liu Wuchen. The grudge of taking a disciple was not over. Zhuang Yunian was equally shocked, his old face filled with immense joy. "Wuchen, you surprised me so much. You brat, you have such a powerful body refinement disciple. Why didn't you say so earlier? You almost got him expelled from the sect." Little did he know. At this moment, Liu Wuchen was also so shocked he was questioning reality. Was that really his useless disciple, Jiang Fan? He actually defeated Tang Tianlong with bare hands. Feng Guchen, who had been relaxing, suddenly sat up straight, furiously shouting, "Tang Tianlong, get serious already. Lose to Jiang Fan and don't come back to Reincarnation Peak." Who was Jiang Fan, a trash without a spirit root, widely recognized as the worst in the martial path. Tang Tianlong losing to any other sect master peak disciple would be reasonable. But losing to a spirit rootless Jiang Fan would be a big joke within and outside the sect. He, Feng Guchen's carefully trained, proud disciple. Not even as good as a disciple without a spirit root. Just thinking about such rumors made him feel like his whole body was being pricked by needles. Tang Tianlong quickly clutched his aching waist, scrambling to his feet. He looked at him in disbelief. How did you do it? He still couldn't believe he was inferior to Jiang Fan. This was impossible, impossible. Jiang Fan said lightly, "That's 2 moves already. Is this all you have? Bring out the ruthlessness you showed my sect master peak disciples earlier." Tang Tianlong felt deeply insulted. To be humiliated by a widely known waste in front of the whole sect. Unbelievable. "You are too arrogant," Tang Tianlong roared, gathering all his spiritual power. He switched to a more powerful incomplete finger technique. It was comprehended from that stone wall. Incredibly powerful. Feng Guchen had once evaluated it as a top-notch finger technique even among profound-level high techniques. With his 8th-layer foundation establishment cultivation, it could repel a 9th-layer expert. He originally intended to use it as a trump card. Now he had no choice but to reveal it early. Damned thing. I'll teach you a lesson. Die! He no longer cared about anything. Just wanted to fiercely knock Jiang Fan down to the ground, washing away the previous humiliation. Jiang Fan nodded slightly. Now that's more like it. Then I will also get a bit more serious. Heavenly battle 9 forms, sky opening. He stepped forward swiftly, taking the initiative to meet him. His fists like azure dragons emerging from the sea. With a force like splitting the sky, they struck fiercely. This was the first time Jiang Fan took the initiative to strike in the arena. And it was the first duel between him and Tang Tianlong. It also represented the struggle between the sect master peak and the reincarnation peak. This collision attracted unprecedented attention. Everyone wanted to know, was it that Tang Tianlong didn't use his full strength just now, or was Jiang Fan's body technique too powerful? Bang, a tooth-aching sound of collision instantly spread throughout the field. Next came the crisp sound of dry firewood being snapped hard. Everyone watched, their pupils contracted. Jiang Fan's fist, like it was cast in iron, easily snapped Tang Tianlong's incoming finger. That seemingly sharp finger technique in front of Jiang Fan's fist seemed no different from paper. And Jiang Fan's fist did not lose its momentum. It slammed into Tang Tianlong's open chest. Crack, crack, crack. The dense sound of bones breaking one after another spread throughout the field. When the final punch entirely struck his chest, Tang Tianlong was sent flying as if hit by a mountain. He flew 7 or 8 zhang away, crashing hard at Feng Guchen's feet. Tang Tianlong couldn't hold back anymore, spitting out a mouthful of blood mist, splattering all over Feng Guchen. With this attack, Tang Tianlong was gravely injured. The entire field fell silent. At this moment, looking at Jiang Fan, how could they dare to have the slightest bit of disdain for the spiritless root? In the martial path realm, strength is king. Being able to severely injure Tang Tianlong at the 8th layer of foundation establishment with one punch was an undeniable fact. Jiang Fan retracted his fist, his breath steady, his face calm. He said indifferently, "Couldn't even take 3 moves. Evaluation result, fail." Everyone's mouths twitched. Tang Tianlong had been clamoring all along for Jiang Fan to fail the test. The result was exactly the opposite. In Jiang Fan's hands, he couldn't even pass one move. He was the one who was unqualified. The disciples were already numb with shock. The elders were also silent. Even the Supreme Elders were strangely silent. There had been powerful candidates being evaluated before, but someone as monstrous as Jiang Fan was a first. Liu Wuchen was stunned for a moment, then he came back to his senses. His eyes were filled with excitement, pride, and immense joy. Tang Tianlong's injury meant that a new examiner could be appointed. As the sect master, he immediately said, "Tang Tianlong is injured and unable to continue presiding over the assessment. Considering Jiang Fan's outstanding strength, he shall take over as the examiner and continue evaluating the disciples." The disciples on the field felt an indescribable absurdity. In history, has any disciple ever participated in a grading, only to grade themselves as the examiner? This is unacceptable. Feng Guchen angrily stood up and shouted, "Jiang Fan intentionally injured someone. It's already generous not to punish him. And you want to make him the examiner?" His most proud disciple had already lost immense face. If he didn't continue to suppress the sect master peak, then how could the reincarnation peak compare? Liu Wuchen said indifferently, "This is the sect master's notification, not a discussion with you." Of course, if you can find a more suitable disciple than Jiang Fan, feel free. Feng Guchen was momentarily speechless. He had a senior disciple, but that one had not returned from his travels. None of the other disciples could rival Jiang Fan. He immediately turned and complained to the Supreme Elders. Supreme Elders, look at Sect Master Liu. He always oppresses my reincarnation peak like this. I hope you can decide for me. Upon hearing this, the few Supreme Elders almost swore. How could this guy be so shameless? When Tang Tianlong was maliciously suppressing the Sect Master Peak's disciples, did they think they were blind and couldn't see? Now that his own disciple had been taught a lesson, he turns the tables. Not to mention the few Supreme Elders were very fond of Jiang Fan. Even if they didn't know Jiang Fan, they certainly wouldn't help Feng Guchen do evil. Huang Zhanshan said indifferently, "Sect internal affairs, we Supreme Elders do not intervene." With just one sentence, he was blocked back. Liu Wuchen felt immensely satisfied. "You old thing, finally you feel the helplessness I felt earlier," he leisurely said. The disciple grading continues. Feng Guchen gritted his teeth, staring daggers at Jiang Fan. He had grown a grudge against him. Jiang Fan did not care. As the examiner, he started drawing lots to assess the disciples. The disciples were terrified. Having seen Jiang Fan's terrifying physique, they feared he would punch their brains out. Unexpectedly, Jiang Fan was very gentle with the disciples, stopping when needed. He mainly evaluated their cultivation, techniques, and combat experience. He did not injure them. The key was, he treated all disciples equally. This won unanimous praise from all the disciples. It also brought a good reputation to the Sect Master Peak. Truth be told, our Green Cloud sect still has to rely on the Sect Master Peak. Yes, when the disciple assessments were handled by the Reincarnation Peak, so many problems arose. It's better to leave all future disciple assessments to the Sect Master Peak to avoid any more unfairness. Liu Wuchen listened, blooming with happiness. The more he looked at Jiang Fan, the more satisfied he felt. This boy, if he had performed like this earlier, would I have disliked him so much? He laughed as he chided, but suddenly, a strong aura locked onto him. It made his whole body tremble. When he turned his head, he saw Shikaishan walking over angrily. Grabbing his collar, "You boy, you've got guts." Liu Wuchen was startled and hurriedly said, "Supreme Elder, she please speak calmly." Zhuang Yunyan quickly asked, "Kaishan, what did Wuchen do to offend you?" Shikaishan found it difficult to speak. He said angrily, "This Jiang Fan was originally a disciple brought back by my heavenly sword Peak. My disciple made a mistake and left him in the plaza. As a result, this boy Liu Wuchen saw him as a prodigy and picked him up." Ah, there was such a thing? The few Supreme Elders immediately gathered to hear the details. Upon learning the whole story, they looked at Li Qingfeng with astonishment. This heaven-defying body refinement genius, you tossed him aside like grass in the plaza. In the end, Liu Wuchen benefited. No wonder Shikaishan was so angry. This was simply a humiliation for the heavenly sword Peak. The other elders suddenly realized as well, especially those who had once considered taking Jiang Fan as a disciple, but were discouraged by Li Qingfeng's spiritless route, evaluation. Each of them looked at Li Qingfeng with gritted teeth. This guy had made them miss such an outstanding talent. Zheng Qiushuang, not without envy, said sourly, "Liu Wuchen, you're quite good at picking up scraps. A disciple that others didn't want, you saw as a good seedling at first glance," Huang Zhanshan said crossly. "Didn't my Wuji want to take Jiang Fan as a disciple too?" But Liu Wuchen intervened and snatched him away. "Liu Wuchen, I never saw you as such a deep thinker, always brash but cunning." Shikaishan also let go of Liu Wuchen, saying, "As the sect master, your abilities are not so high, but when it comes to snatching disciples, you're the best." Listening to those seemingly complaints, but actually praises from Zhuang Yunyan, he proudly put an arm around Liu Wuchen's neck. "Good disciple, you have delighted your master immensely. It was the wisest decision I made, pushing you up to the position of sect master back then. At such an age, what could be more rewarding than standing out among a group of supreme elders?" Liu Wuchen, feeling guilty, kept nodding, wiping the cold sweat off his forehead inadvertently. He hadn't recognized Jiang Fan as a body refinement prodigy. It was purely to protect his daughter's reputation that he reluctantly accepted him. Unexpectedly, he turned out to be an excellent body refinement prodigy. With this in mind, he called out, "Jiang Fan, come here." Jiang Fan quickly approached, saluting. "Disciple Jiang Fan greets master and all supreme elders." Liu Wuchen patted his shoulder and said to the supreme elders present, "Supreme elders, please allow me to announce something to you. In fact, Jiang Fan is not only my disciple, he also has another identity. Jiang Fan looked bewildered. Aside from being your disciple, what other identity could I have? Several Supreme Elders glanced over. They also showed a look of confusion. Could Jiang Fan have some other background? Zhuang Yunian impatiently said, "Stop being so mysterious. Just get to the point." Liu Wuchen then smiled and said, "Actually, I won't hide it from you all. Jiang Fan is my son-in-law." Several Supreme Elders were stunned. Huang Zhanshan stared in disbelief. "You mean to say this kid and your daughter Liu Qingxian are a couple?" Liu Wuchen said, "Indeed. It's a bit awkward to talk about, but even before Jiang Fan joined the sect, he had already promised my daughter to be together for life." Huang Zhanshan was dumbfounded for a while, then said enviously and jealously, "You two really know how to pick people. One pick and it's spot on." HMPH, Shikaishan's face turned even darker. "Announce what? Don't think I'll congratulate you too." Zheng Qiushuang sneered, "Don't get too smug." Zhuang Yunian, however, smiled. He gave Liu Wuchen a thumbs up. Jiang Fan exhibited such a talent for body refinement that it was hard for the other Supreme Elders not to think of poaching him. Now that Jiang Fan and Liu Qingxian's relationship was made public, they would have to back off. But this left Jiang Fan completely confused. "What? I'm your son-in-law," he hurriedly said. "Master, are you mistaken? There's nothing improper between me and senior sister." Mid-sentence, he remembered Liu Qingxian kissing him in the private room. He immediately felt guilty. Liu Wuchen patted him on the shoulder, smiling. "A real man should own up to his actions. Nothing wrong with admitting it." The several Supreme Elders saw his guilty look and assumed it was true. Their thoughts quickly dissipated into thin air, and the disciples in the square. Upon hearing this news, they were instantly in an uproar. This was even more shocking than Tang Tianlong being defeated. In their hearts, Liu Qingxian, like a dream lover, had long been Jiang Fan's woman. The hatred of taking one's wife is irreconcilable. "Jiang Fan, can you leave us a bit? Su Yoren, Chen Silin, you already have two peerless beauties, but you also stole senior sister Liu. This guy really isn't afraid of being struck by lightning while walking. I wish him 18 sons." Chen Silin was stunned. "Jiang Fan and Liu Qingxian, already husband and wife," Su Yoren said. "Do you believe it?" Chen Silin calmed down and thought about it. Jiang Fan wasn't such an irresponsible person. He didn't have any bad intentions with his two fiancées. Not to mention Liu Qingxian, who had no status. "But Sect Master Liu," Su Yoren sighed, "so having a good father is like having the upper hand. Even if there is nothing between Jiang Fan and Liu Qingxian, once it's announced, false becomes true, truer than pearls. I underestimated Miss Liu's methods. She brought her father into play. However," she looked calm and composed, "I still say the same thing. Whether she can have a name or not still needs my approval." Chen Silin secretly felt relieved. See how popular Jiang Fan is now. The daughter of the Green Cloud Sect Master wanting to be with Jiang Fan, so difficult it's almost impossible. Even bringing her father into play won't work. Fortunately, she boarded the ship early. If it were now, there would probably be no chance. Liu Wuchen looked around at the disciples. With the disciple ratings done, it was time to follow the orders of the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion and dispatch disciples to the beast-tied front line. Now I will assign tasks to disciples rated as good or above. These tasks are all issued by the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion. Different tasks correspond to different merit points. Of course, the higher the merit points, the greater the danger. He took out a series of task jade scrolls. Then, after conferring with the other elders, they decided on the task assignments. Liu Qingxian, you will undertake a first-level mission, going to the giant sect's border to confront the beast-tied head-on. Everyone was awestruck. Just by listening to the task description, they knew a first-level mission was extremely dangerous. Confronting the beast-tied head-on could very well lead to one's demise. Tang Tianlong, you will undertake a second-level mission, going to Desire's sect to scout the beast-tide's movement at the border. Everyone understood. Given Tang Tianlong's strength, he should have been assigned a first-level mission. But because he was seriously injured by Jiang Fan, he had to take on a less dangerous but lower-merit second-level mission. Wang Chengjian, you will undertake a first-level mission, going to the giant sect's border to confront the beast-tied head-on. Wang Chengjian showed no expression to this. His gaze remained fixed on Jiang Fan. Jiang Fan, you will undertake a third-level mission, transporting a batch of spiritual medicine to the Spirit Beast sect. Huh, the disciples looked shocked. Jiang Fan was so powerful, yet he was assigned to logistics. However, considering it was the beast tide, they were facing demon beasts. Demon Beast's strongest suit was their physique. Jiang Fan's body technique stood out among the human clan, but not necessarily against demon beasts. Various cultivation techniques were more effective in killing demon beasts, so it wasn't unreasonable to assign Jiang Fan to logistics. Jiang Fan felt a bit disappointed. Really, only logistics? He felt a bit unwilling. This way, he would miss many opportunities to achieve merit. But thinking again, the beast tide was overwhelming. The nine-sect land wouldn't be spared. There would be battlefields everywhere, so no rush for the moment. Doing well in logistics and familiarizing himself with the nine-sect land's environment wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Wang Chengjian breathed a slight sigh of relief. Luckily, Jiang Fan and Liu Qingxian were separated, and he was assigned with Liu Qingxian. He planned to persuade Liu Qingxian to leave someone with limited martial potential. Next, all disciples rated good or above received their tasks. It seemed like Liu Wuchen intentionally favored Su Yoren and Chen Silin. He assigned them a joint task, a third-level logistics mission. It was safe, and they could look after each other. Anyone with a discerning eye could see Liu Wuchen was building goodwill for his daughter to join them. Jiang Fan also breathed a slight sigh of relief. The two women's task was the best possible. The next day, at dawn, disciples began leaving the mountain gate one after another. Jiang Fan also packed up and headed out. To bring little Qilin along, he had a large robe custom-made overnight. Little Qilin could hide inside the robe, so he wouldn't have to carry a conspicuous bag. Prepared, he set off immediately. Following the task's directions, he traveled for 5 days straight, finally arriving at the Supreme Sect. The task indicated others from 3 sects, but upon reaching the Supreme Sect's gate, he was alone. They must still be on the way, Jiang Fan murmured, deciding to first retrieve the spiritual medicine. Holding the task Jade Scroll, he entered the Supreme Sect. The Supreme Sect seemed slower than the Green Cloud Sect. Today, they started selecting disciples to defend against the Beast Tide. They'd hold a competition between 9 peaks for selection, but it hadn't started yet. Seizing the time before they got busy, Jiang Fan, hurriedly holding the Jade Scroll, arrived at the Divine Doctor Peak, where the Great Elder, Shangyuan Sheng, resided. The task specified to obtain spiritual medicine from Shangyuan Sheng. Upon ascending the Divine Doctor Peak, he saw a group of disciples sitting in a pavilion, discussing martial arts. Among them was Xianxia. She remained as quiet as ever, still not fond of such gatherings, but when she sensed someone at the stair entrance, she was slightly stunned. Her lovely, cold face showed a soft smile of surprise as she quickly approached, respectfully saying, "Martial uncle, what brings you here?" In the pavilion, a few disciples with obviously high status couldn't help but frown. Xianxia looked puzzled. "Did I hear that right? Xianxia called him Uncle Master. He looks about the same age as us." In fact, what bothered him the most was, when Xianxia was with them, she was always cold and reserved, rarely speaking. But upon seeing this young man, she actually showed a rare smile and warmly welcomed him. This stark difference in attitude made him feel unsettled. Sitting beside Hua Xianxia was a tall girl exuding a faint medicinal scent. She was very pretty. Although not as stunning as Xianxia, she was still a rare beauty. She glanced at Jiang Fan dismissively and said, "He's a junior brother our master recognized from the Green Cloud Sect. I've heard he's a disciple without a spirit root from the Green Cloud Sect named Jiang Fan. I really don't know what our master was thinking, introducing such an uncle master to us disciples of the Divine Doctor Peak. It's so embarrassing to even talk about it. Only Xianxia, kind-hearted, treats him as an uncle master. Which other brothers and sisters recognize him?" Jiang Fan's reputation as a disciple without a spirit root had long spread throughout the nine-sect land. The disciples in the pavilion immediately understood. The hostility in Hua Xianxian's eyes faded away. If such a disciple were in their supreme sect, he wouldn't even have the right to speak with him, the big senior brother. He was not qualified to compete with him at all. Jiang Fan looked at the respectful Xianxia, smiled lightly and said, "No need for such formalities." "Where is your master?" Xianxia replied. "Master is in seclusion refining elixirs. I will go and invite him now." Upon knowing he was in seclusion, Jiang Fan raised his hand to stop her. "No rush, we can wait until he finishes." Anyways, he still had to wait for those task companions. Glancing at the Supreme Sect disciples in the distance waiting for Xianxia's return, Jiang Fan said, "Go ahead and continue your work, I'll come back later." Xianxia shook her head. "No, anyway, I don't like talking. I'm not much use there. It's rare for Uncle Master to visit the Supreme Sect. Let me accompany you for a walk." Compared to chatting with a group about the martial path, she preferred solitude, or discussing the medical path with others. The precious beast king's stomach that Jiang Fan gave her last time, she used it to refine elixirs, and the efficacy was much better indeed. Because of this, she saved many people. She was very happy. She always wanted to thank this Uncle Master, and it so happened that he came. Jiang Fan thought for a moment and said, "All right, I have nothing to do anyway." The disciples in the pavilion were dumbfounded. "Junior Sister Yan, what's wrong with Junior Sister Chaozong?" Xianxia couldn't understand. The normally solitary Chaozong, who never got close to anyone, actually volunteered to accompany a young man for a stroll. Sitting beside him, Yuqing also looked unfamiliar with Chaozong's attitude. She had never seen Chaozong so polite to a man before. After thinking for a moment, she stood up and caught up with the two. "Chaozong, senior brother Hua and several senior brothers and sisters are waiting for you to return." Chaozong said calmly, "Senior sister, it's fine as long as you're with them. I will accompany Uncle Master Jiang." With those words, she went down the mountain with Jiang Fan. How could Yuqing let her go? The sect competition was imminent. Xianxia took this rare opportunity to invite Chaozong to come out and practice together, to foster better relationships. If she left, would this martial arts exchange meeting continue? "Chaozong, please invite this Uncle Master to join us." Saying Uncle Master made her feel indescribably uncomfortable. Chaozong was unwilling. But Jiang Fan could see that this group centered around Chaozong. If she didn't return, the martial arts exchange meeting would come to nothing. He didn't want his arrival to ruin the meeting. "Let's go together," Jiang Fan had to say. This kind of occasion, like Chaozong, he didn't like. He had no choice but to attend reluctantly. For Jiang Fan's participation, the Supreme Sect disciples present were somewhat resistant. If he were a prodigy from the Green Cloud Sect, like Liu Qingxian, Wang Chengjian, or Tang Tianlong, it would be acceptable. But he was a disciple without a spirit root. He seemed out of place in their martial arts discussions. "Uncle Master, please sit here." Chaozong gave up her seat to him, then knelt beside him and poured him a cup of hot tea. She looked like she was serving him attentively. This made them even more uncomfortable. Xianxia frowned slightly. What was Chaozong's status? One of the top 3 prodigies. Was Jiang Fan worthy of her service? He didn't have any self-awareness. He politely asked, "Junior brother Jiang, how did you become junior sister Chaozong's Uncle Master?" It seemed he was inquiring about the reasons, but actually he was questioning his qualifications. Jiang Fan naturally heard the skepticism in his words and said calmly, "I know a bit about medicine, and divine Dr. Xianxia was kind enough to acknowledge me." Knowing medicine. So young, how advanced could his medical skills be? Could it be that Xianxia was senile and acknowledged him on a whim? Not to mention, the Outer Peak disciples couldn't stand this cheap Uncle Master. Even the divine Dr. Peak disciples didn't recognize him. Yuqing's eyes sparkled with a trace of disdain. She said, "Uncle Master, what a coincidence. We were just discussing how to treat injuries caused by demon beasts. Disciple Yuqing would like to seek Uncle Master's advice." Was she testing his medical skill? Jiang Fan found it both amusing and annoying. He had no intention of showing off the undying doctor's secrets, but since they had asked, he had no choice. Demon beasts harm in many ways. Scratches, bites, collisions, poisoning, and illusions. Different wounds have different severities. "How could I make a general conclusion?" The others saw him speaking clearly and logically. They couldn't help but be astonished. He seemed to know his stuff. Yuqing remained unconvinced, though. These were just basic judgments any 3-year-old would know. Yuqing pretended to seek advice earnestly. "We were discussing poison injuries. If the poison has penetrated the limbs and bones and reached the vital organs, making needles and herbs useless. What do you think should be done?" She glanced at one of their disciples subtly. His face appeared normal, but he was actually deeply poisoned by a demon beast. At that moment, Xianxia was preparing an antidote for him in seclusion. Yuqing wanted to see what diagnosis this cheap Uncle Master would come up with. But no matter the diagnosis, she would not accept it. She intended to pick faults in his words and publicly refute him, making him lose face. She aimed to make him too embarrassed to stay at Divine Dr. Peak. Jiang Fan sighed inwardly. Different types of poison required different treatments. How could they be generalized? Suddenly he glanced around and his gaze fixed on one of the disciples. He showed a trace of realization. "The poison penetrating bones you're talking about. Is it this disciple?" Upon hearing this, Yuqing's expression froze. The other disciples looked surprised. How did he know? Yuqing had a hint of suspicion on her face. How do you know? Jiang Fan frowned and retorted. Is it that hard to see? Though his face looks normal, there are 3 streaks of blood on both sides of his nose. White, greasy substances are oozing from the roots of his hair. The base of his ears is swollen. His breathing is irregular. These obvious signs indicate that his limbs and bones have been invaded by severe poison, right? He looked at Yuqing strangely. Aren't you a disciple of the divine Dr. Peak? Why does such basic diagnostic skills seem so difficult for you? The surrounding disciples were dumbfounded. This guy actually had some skills. If he wasn't in the field of medicine, how could he tell that this disciple had severe poison seeping into his body? Yuqing wanted to make Jiang Fan look ridiculous. Instead, she was the one who got criticized. Anxious and angry, she said, "Who said I didn't know? I was just worried that my master uncle might not understand." She was feeling guilty and quickly changed the subject. "Since that's the case, master uncle, how should we treat it?" She was truly vexed. She had been humiliated in front of the elite disciples of the Supreme Sect. Today, she was determined to find Jiang Fan's faults, so he could experience what it felt like to be lectured in public too. HMPH. Jiang Fan looked at the disciple again. The latter was a bit awed and carefully extended his hand. "Do you need to take my pulse?" "No need." Jiang Fan swiped 2 fingers in front of his eyes, using the Qi observation technique to examine his internal condition. After a few breaths, he said, "You were bitten by a tiger-striped demon snake, weren't you?" "Strange. Why would there be a tiger-striped demon snake within the Supreme Sect's territory?" "This snake prefers arid and hot places, but the Supreme Sect's territory is humid, so there shouldn't be any tiger-striped demon snakes." Xianxia was surprised. "You can even tell what demon beast inflicted the bite." Even divine Dr. Shangguan was uncertain. Yuqing was secretly pleased. There came the problem. There were thousands of poisonous demon beasts. How could Jiang Fan tell the source of the poison without even taking the pulse? Unless her master, the undying doctor, was resurrected. Otherwise, who could tell? "Master uncle, are you sure? If the diagnosis is wrong, someone could die." She pretended to be worried. Jiang Fan looked at the disciple and asked, "Did you clearly see the demon beast that bit you?" The latter nodded. "I saw it clearly, but when I described it, no one recognized it." The types of demon beasts were indeed numerous, and the snake demon that bit him was very rare. He had asked all the elders of the Supreme Sect, but no one could identify it. Jiang Fan nodded, took out a demon beast atlas from his chest pocket. After opening it and searching for a while, his finger pointed to a snake demon covered in stripes. At first glance, it looked like a tiger skin on a snake demon's pattern. "Is this it?" The disciple looked and instantly got excited. Yes, that's it. I said it had a body like tiger skin, but many people said I was seeing things, saying no such snake demon exists in the world. Turns out it's called a tiger-striped demon snake." Now, the disciples present couldn't stay calm anymore. Seeing Jiang Fan, their expressions changed. Xianxia muttered, "He really has some skills. He identified a poison that even divine Dr. Shangguan couldn't." A disciple also showed a hint of admiration. "This person not only has high medical skills, but also has a deep knowledge of demon beasts. We couldn't guess the demon beast from the descriptions, but he merely looked at the symptoms and deduced the type of snake demon from the poison's characteristics. No wonder Chaozong respects him so much, and it's no wonder divine Dr. Shangguan considers him a junior brother. This person truly has medical skills beyond the ordinary." At this point, Yuqing felt awkward. She wanted to make this opportunistic master uncle look foolish, but instead, he stole the spotlight again and again. This made her look like she couldn't recognize a towering figure. Biting her red lips slightly, she was still not convinced. She said, "Then, master uncle, how would you detoxify this disciple? Needles and stones are ineffective." She aimed to attack his treatment methods harshly. She wouldn't let him off the hook. Jiang Fan, however, sternly criticized. "Didn't divine Dr. Shangguan teach you that you shouldn't be self-opinionated when treating diseases? Why are you so stubborn in thinking that needles and stones are pointless?" Yuqing's face turned red. "Hey, are you addicted to criticizing me or what?" Again and again, she said with a sullen face, "The poison has entered the limbs and bones, and the silver needles can only affect the skin and meridians. They can't reach the bones." "Did I say something wrong?" She decided to confront him openly. Today, it would either prove that her master uncle wasn't skilled enough, or she hadn't mastered her learning. In any case, one of them had to fall. Xianxia was dissatisfied and said, "Senior sister, how can you speak to Master Uncle like that? He's criticizing you for your own good. A doctor can't afford any negligence." Yuqing snorted. "I didn't say anything wrong. Why should I accept criticism? Unless he uses silver needles to prove to me how to expel the severe poison from within the body." Jiang Fan shook his head. With such an attitude towards learning medicine, she would indeed harm people in the future. It was necessary to teach her humility. He immediately took out a jade box. After opening it, silver needles with blue flames burning at their tips came into view. Yuqing was shocked. "How do you have Master's blue flame silver needles?" She panicked a bit. These needles were her master's most cherished possession. Normally, they were not even allowed to touch them, but her master had given them to Jiang Fan. This showed he seriously regarded Jiang Fan as a junior brother, not just on a whim. Could it be Jiang Fan could really use silver needles to remove the severe poison? Thinking this, she bit her red lips slightly and her eyes were filled with defiance. She didn't believe it. Someone who looked so young really deserved to be her master uncle. Jiang Fan did not hesitate. He instructed the disciple to take off his upper garment and lie on the stone table. Then in front of many disciples, he started the acupuncture treatment. Unlike ordinary doctors, inserting the needles one by one, he slapped the jade box, causing all the silver needles to fly into the air. Then he wrapped them with spiritual power. After suspending them in midair, he arranged them into a unique formation according to their lengths. At first glance, it looked like the sword array from Legends. Each silver needle connected head to tail with one another. Under the activation of spiritual power, the blue flames mysteriously ignited the next silver needle, turning it entirely blue. The set of silver needles quickly formed a blue array diagram, both mysterious and complex. Xianxia furrowed his brows, staring at the array as if it seemed familiar, but he couldn't quite recall it. Yuqing snorted. "Is this a magic trick? If the undying doctor knew one of his 3 sets of silver needles was being toyed with like this, he wouldn't rest in peace." The surrounding disciples came to their senses. They also showed puzzled expressions. "It looks impressive, but aren't we supposed to be curing someone? Playing with silver needles like this, is he showing off?" At this time, from the distance, the stone door of the refining medicine chamber suddenly opened. A cloud of green smoke rolled out. Xianxia emerged rather disheveled. Obviously, concocting the detoxification medicine was not going smoothly. Yuqing's eyes lit up, and she quickly ran over to report. "Master, look, someone is ruining your blue flame silver needles." She felt incredibly smug. "Haha, show-off, caught by Master red-handed. How will you explain it, however?" When Xianxia looked over, he first froze. Like Xianxia, he fell into deep thought. Then suddenly a startling brilliance burst from his eyes. His elderly face showed an excited expression. He patted his thigh and said, "Aya, so this is the true usage of the blue flame silver needle. I have held this needle for many years and could never figure it out. No wonder this needle never seemed as magical in my hands as it did in my master's." He walked over quickly. Not daring to disturb Jiang Fan, his elderly eyes stared unblinkingly at his technique. This scene, Yuqing was thoroughly stunned. It turned out Jiang Fan wasn't performing a trick. He was activating the true usage of the blue flame silver needle. As the needles formed a formation, Jiang Fan pressed down with his palm. The densely packed silver needles, like strands of blue light, all plunged into the disciple's back according to the predetermined formation. He let out a severe cry of pain. Several threads of pitch-black poison, like ink, poured out of his limbs and body through the silver needles. When the poison splattered onto the stone table, it corroded small pits into it. When the poison no longer spurted out, Jiang Fan raised his hand, summoning the silver needles from a distance. The blue flame on the needles burned away all the remaining poison clinging to them, making them look brand new. All done, he placed the needles back into the jade box. The disciple stood up and moved around a bit, showing an expression of surprise. "It doesn't hurt anymore, the pain in my bones is really gone." Yuqing found it somewhat unbelievable. That was a deep-seated poison in the bones. How could it be easily removed by silver needles? However, after checking his pulse, Yuqing was astounded. There truly was no more poison. This skill also left the Supreme Sect's elite disciples utterly amazed. This disciple with no spirit root turned out to be a high-level expert in the medical path. At least, he was a level above disciples like Yuqing. Jiang Fan stored away the silver needles and then earnestly taught Yuqing. Since you've acknowledged divine Dr. Shangyuan as your master, you should put more effort into the medical path. Do not tarnish his reputation. It was clear that Yan Yuqing was different from Xia Caoj. The former's focus was more on the martial path and hadn't dedicated herself to studying the medical path. Shangyuan Sheng asked curiously, "Junior brother, did my disciple Yuqing offend you?" He had worried when he announced a new junior uncle, fearing his disciples would be dissatisfied. Because Jiang Fan's reputation as a disciple with no spirit root was indeed hard to accept. Jiang Fan glanced at the now very nervous Yan Yuqing and smiled calmly. "No, I was just discussing toxicology with her in the field of the medical path." Shangyuan Sheng, being experienced and astute, could clearly hear that Jiang Fan was covering for her. He sighed inwardly at Jiang Fan's kind and tolerant nature. Having such a good junior uncle, how could his disciples not appreciate him? He smiled bitterly. "Your medical path skills are still better. Senior brother feels inferior." Yan Yuqing and the other elite disciples of the Supreme Sect felt another wave of astonishment. The #1 divine doctor of the Nine Sect land actually admitted he was not as skilled as Jiang Fan. What a terrifying amount of information. All at once, the disciples sitting around the stone table stood up. Since the great elder held Jiang Fan in such high regard, none of them had the right to keep sitting. "Junior brother, what brings you to the Supreme Sect?" Shangyuan Sheng finally asked, remembering. Jiang Fan took out the task Jade Scroll. "I have a task for you to review." Shangyuan Sheng took it and looked, his eyes widening. "They are letting you handle a level 3 task. What is Sect Master Liu thinking? A medical path expert like you should be heading to the front lines, performing top-level tasks, aiding the injured." He found it incomprehensible. Jiang Fan said helplessly, "The Sect Master must have his reasons for this arrangement." "I'll just follow orders." Shangyuan Sheng couldn't argue further. After all, this was an internal matter of the Green Cloud Sect, and as an elder of an outer sect, he had no standing to criticize. "Since you're executing the task of transporting spiritual medicine, I feel reassured. However, the last batch of spiritual medicine is still being refined. Please stay in our Supreme Sect for half a day." Jiang Fan bowed. "Thank you, senior brother." Shangyuan Sheng wasted no time and arranged, "Caoj, assist me in refining the medicine. Yuqing, accompany your junior uncle and show him around the Supreme Sect." Xia Caoj frowned slightly. "Master, let me accompany junior uncle. Senior sister can assist you in refining the medicine." She still had many questions in the medical path and wanted to ask Jiang Fan. Shangyuan Sheng stayed silent. Seeing no choice, Xia Caoj sighed and followed Shangyuan Sheng into the secret chamber. After closing the stone door, Shangyuan Sheng sat down wearily. "You've already gained favor from your junior uncle, but Yuqing hasn't yet. So this opportunity should go to Yuqing. I hope she can seize this chance." Shangyuan Sheng was already advanced in years. He knew he had little time left, but none of his disciples had reached a level that satisfied him. He worried that after his death, the reputation of the divine doctor peak would be lost. Jiang Fan's arrival gave him hope. The future Jiang Fan would definitely be a great divine doctor, comparable to the undying doctor. If his two favorite disciples, Xia Caoj and Yan Yuqing, could both earn his favor, their accomplishments in the medical path would surely not be less than his. Now Xia Caoj already had that chance. Only Yan Yuqing was left. On the peak, the martial path exchange could not continue. Hua Xianxia regarded Jiang Fan intently, then led many disciples away with a farewell. Only Jiang Fan and Yan Yuqing remained. Jiang Fan had just reprimanded Yan Yuqing. There was little hope for a good relationship between the two. He silently descended the peak, intending to take a look around. He had heard that the Supreme Sect placed great emphasis on nurturing disciple comprehension, hence their overall higher comprehension compared to other sects. This made their cultivation techniques often stronger than those of the outer sect. At the same realm, they were more powerful, which established their position among the top 3 sects. After taking a few steps, he found Yan Yuqing wordlessly following behind. Jiang Fan frowned. "I want to look around on my own, you don't need to follow." Yan Yuqing replied expressionlessly, "How could I dare to defy Master's orders? Wherever junior uncle goes, I shall accompany you." Listening to this obviously unwilling tone, Jiang Fan did not say more. He left the divine doctor peak directly. He found several disciples hurriedly passing by at the foot of the mountain. "Hurry, someone has gained comprehension of a movement technique at the heart refining steel." "A movement technique. That's rare, let's go check it out." heart-refining steel. Curious, Jiang Fan followed them. Yan Yuqing rolled her eyes quietly and snarkily reminded him, "Junior uncle, the heart-refining steel is a place for practicing advanced cultivation techniques. You can only watch the excitement." Jiang Fan ignored him. With hands behind his back, he walked briskly, disappearing from sight in a blink, seeing him not listen to advice. Yan Yuqing angrily said, "What are you going there for? Don't think I don't know. Master asked me to accompany you because he hopes you can teach me some medical path. But I am more interested in advancing in the martial path. You simply cannot give me the opportunities I want." It turned out she understood Xiangyuan Sheng's arrangements clearly, but she did not care about the medical path. Initially apprenticing to Xiangyuan Sheng was merely to gain the title of a disciple of the divine doctor. Thus, she could gain connections both within and outside the sect. This would aid her future advancement in the martial path. The medical path was merely a stepping stone for her pursuit of the martial path. So even though she was well aware of Jiang Fan's superior medical skills, even better than Xiangyuan Sheng, she did not feel any admiration at all, because what she wanted were resources for the martial path. The martial path, and this was something that Jiang Fan, who had no spirit root, could not provide. Watching him head to the heart-cleansing steel against all advice, she could only follow him in anger. "You're asking for humiliation yourself. If you get upset later, don't blame me for not warning you." She lifted her skirt, storming off after him, muttering continuously, "Every disciple who frequently comprehends under the heart-cleansing steel, aren't they all highly perceptive and proud? Without some skill, going there will only invite disdain." As a disciple of the divine doctor, even she resisted the heart-cleansing steel, because her comprehension in the martial path was not exceptional. She once attempted to comprehend an obscure cultivation technique under the heart-cleansing steel, but made no progress for a long time, and was mockingly ridiculed by a group of highly perceptive disciples. Comments like "disciple of the divine doctor, nothing more," "not worthy of being Sister Xianxia Cultivation," and other unpleasant remarks. This took away her courage to return to the heart-cleansing steel. But since Jiang Fan insisted on going, she could only muster the courage to go there again. When she arrived, there was already a crowd of disciples gathered under the heart-cleansing steel. They were watching a young girl in red with admiration on their faces. She had a good figure, her appearance could be considered pretty, her lips were thin, and there was a hint of malice in her eyes. She gave a very sharp impression. At this moment, under the crowd's gaze, she was demonstrating her movement technique back and forth under a huge steel. Like a dragonfly skimming the water, she lightly tapped the ground with her toes, leaping effortlessly to Zhang, and upon landing lightly tapped again. She crossed several dozen Zhang in an instant. This earned thunderous applause and cheers from the crowd. This is the sect's only movement technique, swan flying in the sky, which no one has successfully comprehended for 3 years. Junior sister Jiang Qin is indeed the proud daughter with the highest perception. In counting the Supreme Sect, those who comprehended this technique can be counted on one hand. Yan Yuqing felt very uncomfortable upon hearing this, because she initially overestimated herself and tried to challenge the so-called hardest movement technique to comprehend, resulting in collective mockery. The one who mocked her the most was Jiang Qin. Jiang Qin, who was envious of her appearance, figure, and the status of being a disciple of the divine doctor, spoke very maliciously. Now, seeing the technique she couldn't comprehend being effortlessly grasped by Jiang Qin, Yan Yuqing felt indescribable discomfort. She glanced at Jiang Fan from a distance and walked over, silently tugging at his sleeve. Feeling low in spirit, she said, "Uncle, let's go somewhere else." Jiang Fan came here out of curiosity about the so-called heart-cleansing steel. Discovering that the steel merely emitted a refreshing aura, which could calm the mind and aid in comprehension, he lost interest. As for Jiang Qin's movement technique, for someone with his high attainment in movement techniques, it held no interest. He nodded, turned around, and said, "Let's go, let's look elsewhere." Yan Yuqing sighed with relief. Every moment spent here felt like thorns on her back, making her extremely uncomfortable. She moved gracefully, taking steps to leave. While others were met with thunderous applause, their turn to leave appeared completely out of place. Jiang Qin couldn't help but notice, thus she immediately recognized Yan Yuqing. "Oh, isn't this the renowned disciple of the divine doctor, Yan Yuqing?" Jiang Qin sneered, feeling confident again here to try comprehending the movement technique. "Sorry, I've already mastered it before you." Yan Yuqing's body stiffened. She turned her head and shot a furious look. "I am just accompanying my uncle." Jiang Qin wouldn't let go of any chance to belittle Yan Yuqing. because she once tried to apprentice under Shang Yuan too. But Shang Yuan chose Yan Yuqing instead, saying that Yan Yuqing's talent in the medical path was higher than hers. This left Jiang Qin resentful. She always thought it was Yan Yuqing's better looks that won Shang Yuan's favor. "Where did you get an uncle from? That kid who barely looks grown," Jiang Qin sneered. "If you want to comprehend, just do it. What's with the excuse?" "What? Afraid you can't comprehend and make a fool of yourself again? Don't be scared. With me here, if you beg me, maybe I'll be kind enough to teach you." This provoked laughter from many of the female disciples jealous of Yan Yuqing's looks. "She's just a vase, can't master medical arts, can't master martial path. HMPH. Just good at being close with senior brothers in the sect. Who takes her seriously?" Yan Yuqing blushed with anger, saying, "Jiang Qin, what did I do to offend you? Need you be so malicious?" Jiang Qin's smile faded, snorting coldly, "Calling me malicious? You wretched woman, how dare you slander me? Apologize, or you can forget about leaving today." Yan Yuqing's eyes welled up with tears in anger. She wondered what she had done wrong to deserve this relentless bullying. What good is crying? Shedding tears in front of those senior brothers, someone might take pity on you. With me, it's useless. Apologize to me right now, or I won't hesitate to slap you, Jiang Qin demanded aggressively, though their qualifications in the martial path were similar. Yan Yuqing was distracted by the medical path, hence her achievements in the martial path were naturally lower than Jiang Qin's. If they really fought, Yan Yuqing would be overwhelmingly bullied. Jiang Fan frowned. Although he didn't particularly like Yan Yuqing, she was his junior. He couldn't ignore her being bullied so aggressively in front of him. "Jiang Qin, right?" Jiang Fan said indifferently. "You're young, but your temper is strong. You just insulted my junior. Apologize to her, now, immediately." The disciples present were stunned. They all looked at Jiang Fan with puzzlement. He really was Yan Yuqing's uncle? Yan Yuqing was also slightly surprised. She hadn't expected Jiang Fan to stand up for her at this moment, feeling a bit touched inside. But thinking about Jiang Fan's martial strength, she quickly said, "Forget it, uncle, let's just ignore her. I'll take you somewhere else." Jiang Qin was furious. She couldn't get Yan Yuqing to apologize, and now she was being asked to apologize instead. "How outrageous! Did I allow you to leave?" She pushed the crowd aside, her face twisted with anger. "I don't care if you're Yan Yuqing's uncle. Do you have a say in my business with her? Get lost as far as you can. Yan Yuqing, kneel down and apologize, or when I slap your face," just as she was speaking. Suddenly, Jiang Fan shook off Yan Yuqing's hand. Spirit light rippled beneath his feet, his figure like a ghost. The short distance between them, for Jiang Fan, whose movement technique covered over a dozen zhang in one step. He reached her in a blink. He unceremoniously raised his hand and slapped her across the face. Slap, the crisp sound of the slap stunned everyone present. "Is this the kind of slap you meant?" Jiang Fan said indifferently. Yuqing was stunned. Before she could understand what happened, Jiang Fan had already slapped Jiang Qin across the face. Jiang Qin was also left in a daze. She only saw a flash before getting slapped. What just happened? As the burning pain on her face set in, Jiang Qin finally snapped back to reality. A wave of deep humiliation surged in her heart, and she roared angrily, "You dare slap my face? I want you dead." Dead, she had always been the one to humiliate her fellow disciples. When had she ever been slapped in public? She immediately lost her reason, roaring as she struck towards Jiang Fan's chest. "Watch out!" Yan Yuqing turned pale with fright. Jiang Qin was in the 8th layer of foundation establishment, and her cultivated palm technique was notorious for its ferocity. A strike to the chest like that could easily be fatal. Jiang Fan's eyes turned cold. How vicious! She could humiliate others at will, but if she suffered a bit of humiliation, she wanted to take someone's life. He wouldn't let someone like her off easily. He countered with a punch. Boom, even without using the heavenly battle 9 forms, his punch was not something anyone could withstand. Before Jiang Qin's strike could land, her shoulder was hit. She let out a wretched groan and was thrown backward. She crashed into a group of disciples, knocking several of them over. Cries of pain erupted immediately. Yan Yuqing's lovely eyes widened in disbelief. Wasn't Jiang Fan supposed to be a disciple with no spirit root? What was going on? Jiang Qin, so powerful herself, was taken down by a casual punch from him. That punch also seemed to wake Jiang Qin up. She looked at Jiang Fan in shock. Only now did she realize that this person Yan Yuqing called uncle was not simple. She gritted her teeth and spat. "Fine, fine, fine. I'll remember this. Yan Yuqing, just you wait. I'll repay this humiliation 100-fold in the future. Pray your uncle is always there to protect you." Yan Yuqing's heart sank, and she couldn't help but feel anxious. Jiang Qin was someone who returned acts of hatred tenfold. Though Uncle seemed to help her, he might have actually brought trouble upon her. Jiang Fan narrowed his eyes. "It seems you haven't realized your mistake." Jiang Qin, full of venom, snorted, "HMPH. I admit you've got some skill. But with my movement technique, you think you can stop me?" With that, she used her movement technique, leaping to Zhang like a dragonfly touching water. As she fled, she turned back and threatened fiercely, "Rest assured. The humiliation you gave me today, I will repay to Yan Yuqing twofold, tenfold, 100-fold. If I don't avenge this, I swear I'm not human." Jiang Fan snorted coldly. "You've learned a bit of a movement technique, and you think no one can do anything to you. Showing off in front of a master." His voice fell. He directly used the second layer of the One Reed's Crossing River movement technique, with a ripping sound. As his body moved, it tore through the air, creating a loud whipping noise. His speed was astonishing, with a single step. He covered a distance of over 10 zhang. This drew a thunderous cheer from the disciples around. "One step covers over 10 zhang? This is a great success-level movement technique. Yan Yuqing's uncle is a top expert in movement technique. My God, who exactly is he? Our sect master's movement technique only covers 8 zhang per step." Hearing the commotion behind her, Jiang Qin frowned and looked back. What she saw made her scream on the spot. Jiang Fan, moving over 10 zhang in one step, had already reached her side. His movement technique, 10 times more advanced than hers. Next moment, a heavy punch hit her chest. Her body flew backward again, crashing in front of the heart-refining steel. Hack, hack. This time, with nothing to cushion her fall, she hit the ground hard, coughing up blood violently. She looked at Jiang Fan from afar, terrified. Before she could get up, her vision blurred again as Jiang Fan crossed several zhang to stand before her. Jiang Qin was frightened. She quickly tried to use her movement technique, but her 2 zhang per step technique was like a snail's pace compared to Jiang Fan. Just as she stepped, Jiang Fan caught up, giving her another punch. This happened 3 times. Jiang Qin was finally scared out of her wits. When Jiang Fan punched again, she hugged her head and pleaded, "Senior, I know my mistake, please stop." The desperation of not being able to escape made her realize she was facing a superior person she couldn't afford to provoke. Jiang Fan drew back his punch and said coldly, "The last person who behaved so recklessly was left with all their bones shattered by me. Hope you won't be the next one." Jiang Qin nodded like a pecking chicken. Jiang Fan said, "So aren't you going to apologize to my junior niece?" Jiang Qin was utterly terrified. She sulkily walked to Yan Yuqing and bowed, "Senior Sister Yan, I'm sorry I was wrong before." Yan Yuqing blankly nodded. Oh, it's okay now." She was completely stunned. Who exactly was this uncle of hers? Aside from his terrifying combat skills, he also had an unmatched movement technique. She had never heard of anyone whose movement technique could cover over 10 zhang in a step. Fully using it would be like flying on flat ground. Jiang Fan walked over and said, "Let's go, let's look elsewhere." As he walked a few steps ahead, Yan Yuqing stood frozen and frowned. "Why are you standing there?" With such a commotion, the higher-ups of Supreme Sect would soon arrive. Not leaving quickly were they waiting to be questioned. Yan Yuqing snapped out of it and hurriedly responded, Oh, okay, uncle." She lifted her dress and hurriedly caught up to Jiang Fan. Seeing his back, her eyes grew more respectful and full of gratitude. "Uncle, thank you for what you did earlier." If not for Uncle, she would have surely been humiliated by Jiang Qin, and she treated him so poorly. When she was in trouble, he still stood up for her. Thinking about the times in the pavilion, she felt ashamed. Jiang Fan didn't mind any of this. He spoke sincerely. "A person's energy is limited. It's best to focus on either the martial path or the medical path. Trying to master both may not be beneficial." This struck a chord with Yan Yuqing's heart. At present, her medical path was mediocre, and she was surpassed in the martial path by her peers. She excelled at neither. But then she paused and couldn't help muttering softly, "Are you qualified to say that?" Jiang Fan himself dual cultivated in the medical path and martial path, didn't he? And his medical skills were far superior, surpassing even her master Shangyuan Sheng. As for the martial path, she wondered what level his martial prowess had reached. Could he perhaps match someone in the 9th layer of foundation establishment for a few moves? Thinking this, the plaza's bell suddenly rang. Yan Yuqing's face changed slightly, becoming anxious. "Our Supreme Sect selection is starting. Only those who meet the criteria can participate in resisting the beast tide." Really, Jiang Fan was always curious about the strength of Supreme Sect's disciples. As one of the top 3 of the 9 sect, their current disciples should be very strong. Let's go and have a look. The two of them arrived at the plaza. Disciples from various peaks were arriving one after another. As soon as they got there, a few prettily dressed female disciples approached. Yuqing, you came so early? A lively female disciple affectionately linked arms with her. Then she noticed Jiang Fan standing nearby, seeing his handsome features and fair skin, more delicate than a woman's. She couldn't help but tease, Hey, Yuqing, you've got yourself a lover and didn't even tell us sisters. Yuqing jumped in fright. She quickly scolded, Stop with the nonsense. This is my uncle Jiang Fan. Uncle, Jiang Fan, the female disciple suddenly realized, Oh, so he's your so-called uncle. Yuqing, didn't you say you'd harshly teach him a lesson and make him back off? Another female disciple looked puzzled. Yeah, didn't you say you're embarrassed with such an uncle? Why are you still hanging out with him? Yuqing wished she could die on the spot. The words of ignorance she had once spoken had been overheard by Jiang Fan. She wished the ground would open up and swallow her whole. Her face turned a deep shade of red, and she didn't dare look Jiang Fan in the eye. She buried her head in her chest, face burning with embarrassment, stammering. Uncle, don't listen to their nonsense. I didn't say that. Her two best friends frowned. Yuqing, you did say that. MMPH. Yuqing quickly covered their mouths, threatening fiercely. Say it again and we die together. The two best friends finally fell silent. Confusion was written all over their little faces. What had gotten into Yuqing? Could it be that this Jiang Fan had something on her, causing her to be so afraid of him? The cheerful girl pried Yuqing's hand away and with a challenging look said, Hey, you're about our age, how come you're acting as Yuqing's uncle? That's right. The other girl was also indignant for Yuqing. You need to prove yourself so we can be convinced. Jiang Fan found it amusing. What could you do if you're not convinced? Seeing that they were speaking out for Yuqing without any ill intentions. Jiang Fan raised an eyebrow and said, How can I convince you then? The two girls just wanted to stand up for fairness. When it came down to testing Jiang Fan, they hadn't really thought it through. Suddenly, the cheerful girl pointed at the built stage. You go up there later and have a match with the elites of our supreme sect. If you perform well, we'll acknowledge you as Yuqing's uncle. Oh. Jiang Fan raised his eyebrows. As an outer sect disciple, can I also participate in your supreme sect's disciple competition? Yuqing was almost driven crazy by her two friends. She quickly said, Uncle, don't mind these two girls' nonsense. They're talking about a friendly match. Every year when we have our Supreme Sect disciple competitions, outer sect disciples come expressly to observe. So, after the competition ends, a special friendly match is arranged. Outer sect disciples can step up and challenge a sect disciple. Or, a sect disciple can invite an observing outer disciple for guidance. Jiang Fan understood. The Supreme Sect was one of the top 3 powerful sects. The strength of its disciples was closely watched by other sects, so during disciple competitions, outer sect people would always come to observe, to showcase their disciples' abilities. The Supreme Sect generously hosted a friendly match, allowing visitors to experience the might of their disciples up close. One had to admit, the Supreme Sect was very confident in their disciples' strength. Jiang Fan smiled, no need for sparring, it could strain relations. Watching is enough. The Supreme Sect's sparring matches were meant to showcase their disciples' strength. If the disciples won, all was well. If they lost, it would be somewhat embarrassing for the Supreme Sect. Tusk! The two girls dragged out their tones, rolling their eyes in unison. They thought Jiang Fan was clearly lacking confidence and didn't dare to go on stage. Yuqing wanted to strangle the two of them, smiling wryly. Uncle, these two are my friends. One is a sword Dao prodigy from Hidden Sword Peak, Xianxia. One is a palm technique expert from Green Bamboo Peak, Chai Yingrong. They've been spoiled rotten by their masters and senior brothers, so they speak without thinking. Please don't take it to heart. Xianxia, the cheerful one, pouted. Who are you talking about? If you have the guts, fight us on stage. Jiang Fan just smiled without saying a word. He strolled over to the spectators' seats. He casually sat down, waiting for the competition to start. Just then, the disciples were in a commotion. The sect master's peak senior brother Hua Xianchen is here, and Hidden Sword Peak's senior sister Li Shiqian. Green Bamboo Peak's senior brother Wang Yunj is also here. They are all sect elites exempt from selection, qualified to go to the beast-tide frontline. Why are they here? Naturally, they're here to support our Supreme Sect. Didn't you notice there are many outer sect observers this time? If any of them are too strong for our ordinary disciples to handle, they will step in to uphold the sect's honor. The new disciples came to a realization. The Supreme Sect was confident enough in their abilities to host sparring matches without embarrassment. Hua Xianxia and other sect elites were their trump cards. Hua Xianxia walked in like a star among the crowd. From a distance, he spotted Yan Yuqing standing out among the disciples. She wore a light yellow, wide-sleeved long dress, her cheeks white and delicate, with bright eyes and pearly teeth. Standing among the disciples, she caught the eye. Though not as beautiful as Xianxia, she was still exceptionally attractive. He waved to Yan Yuqing from afar. "Junior Sister Yuqing, come join us in watching the competition. I'll introduce you to Junior Sister Li and Junior Brother Wang." Yan Yuqing always mingled among the sect elite disciples, making friends with the prodigies of various peaks, but like attracts like. Among the top prodigies, except for Hua Xianxia, who often dealt with Yan Yuqing to get closer to Xianxia, Li Shiqian and Wang Yunj, who were both exceptionally talented, usually didn't bother with her. Now with him making introductions, he believed Yan Yuqing would soon befriend them, and Yan Yuqing would be delighted. Cheng Xiaoleng and Chai Yingrong too grinned, urging, "Come on, Yuqing, go. Haven't you always wanted to meet Senior Sister Li and Senior Brother Wang?" But to everyone's surprise, Yan Yuqing simply gave a distant salute to Li Shiqian and Wang Yunj. "Greetings, Senior Sister Li, Senior Brother Wang. I need to accompany my uncle, I hope you understand." She had already accepted Jiang Fan as her uncle in her heart. With an elder present, she naturally couldn't leave him unattended. Her reaction was unexpected. It made Hua Xianxia's face stiffen slightly. His imagined scene of Yan Yuqing running over with a smiling face did not happen. Instead, she had politely declined. Li Shiqian felt a little humiliated. She had always ignored Yan Yuqing. Today, offering her a chance to curry favor, but she didn't appreciate it. "Ha, this Junior Sister Yan has quite the attitude." Wang Yunj was also displeased. "It seems Junior Sister Yan looks down on me." Hua Xianxia quickly smoothed things over for Yan Yuqing. This isn't entirely Junior Sister Yuqing's fault. Of course, she wants to make friends with Junior Sister Li and Junior Brother Wang. But Divine Dr. Shangyuan is forcing her to accompany her uncle. She has no choice but to comply. Upon hearing this, Li Shiqian and Wang Yunj both looked at Jiang Fan beside Yan Yuqing. They both frowned. He's the outer sect disciple from Green Cloud sect with no spirit root. Recognizing such a person as an uncle, doesn't Yan Yuqing feel embarrassed? Hua Xianxia smiled bitterly. Junior Sister Yuqing has no choice. All right, let's sit. After her sparring match, have her send some fine spirit wine to Junior Sister Li and Junior Brother Wang as an apology. As the disciples took their seats, the Supreme Sect's disciple competition began. It was similar to the Green Cloud sect in one aspect. Elite disciples were exempt from the competition. Thus, it was disciples below the 8th layer of foundation establishment who were competing. Next match, Divine Dr. Peaks Yan Yuqing versus Bagua Sect's Feng Heiyuan. Cheng Xiaoleng and Chai Yingrong's faces both changed. "Yuqing, you're really out of luck to meet this guy." Cheng Xiaoleng looked at Yan Yuqing with sympathetic eyes. Chai Yingrong also pulled a face. "The draw is so unfair. Feng Heiyuan is Bagua Sect's key talent. His cultivation is at the 7th layer of foundation establishment, and he's trained in a powerful leg technique. Earlier, he defeated people of the same realm with just 3 kicks." Cheng Xiaoleng said, "That's right, our Yuqing is only at the 6th layer of foundation establishment. How can she compete with him?" Yan Yuqing's face turned pale. She thought she was extremely unlucky, facing the strongest opponent. She took a deep breath and got up. "Uncle, I'll head over now." Jiang Fan, however, looked meaningfully at Feng Heiyuan and said, "Do you want to win against him?" Xiaoleng rolled his eyes. "Isn't that obvious? Who participates in the sect's grand competition to lose?" Yan Yuqing also couldn't help but laugh. "Uncle, what kind of question is that? How could a disciple not want to win? It's just that the gap in strength is clear, so wanting to win is very difficult." Jiang Fan continued to ask, "Can you accept winning dishonorably?" Yan Yuqing showed confusion in her eyes. In the face of absolute strength, could one still play tricks? Jiang Fan stared at Feng Heiyuan, his eyes filled with insight. "If you want to rely on strength and win him fair and square, indeed it's very difficult. But if you don't mind using some tricks, I can show you a way." Tricks. Cheng Xiaoleng and Chai Yingrong looked skeptical. Everyone had seen Feng Heiyuan's strength. What kind of trick could they use against him? Yan Yuqing also didn't quite believe it and said, "Uncle, go ahead and say it. As long as it doesn't violate sect rules, it's fine." Jiang Fan slowly nodded. "I just observed that when Feng Heiyuan fights, his right leg is less agile than his left leg. There should be an injury on his right leg, making it hard for him to exert strength. If you attack his right leg, you might achieve unexpected results. Cheng Xiaoleng was startled and said, "How come I didn't notice?" Chai Yingrong also shook his head blankly. "I carefully observed Feng Heiyuan just now. There was no obvious difference between his legs." Even Yan Yuqing was skeptical. But holding a try-it-out mentality, she clasped her hands and thanked. "Thank you for your guidance, uncle." She then jumped onto the ring to face Feng Heiyuan in a duel. Hua Xianxia watched with interest and said, "Junior sister Li, senior brother Wang, what do you think of junior sister Yuqing in this match?" Li Shiqian said indifferently, "What else can we think? She is at the 6th layer of foundation establishment. How could she win against Feng Heiyuan, a master of leg techniques?" Wang Yunj held a cup of wine, sipping slowly, and said indifferently, "Losing is inevitable. If she apologizes to me properly later, I might feel good and offer her some advice on her weaknesses." Hua Xianxia laughed. "Then I'll thank junior sister Yuqing on her behalf, junior brother Wang." After a round of exchanges on the ring, Hua Xianxia frowned slightly. Wang Yunj also put down his wine cup. "It's been 20 moves already and they are still fighting. Yan Yuqing's strength seems to be a bit stronger than I expected." Li Shiqian's eyes sharpened, noticing the key point. "Did you notice? She has been attacking Feng Heiyuan's right leg." With her reminder, the two observed carefully and discovered. As Li Shiqian said, Yan Yuqing concentrated on attacking his right leg, causing Feng Heiyuan to hold back several powerful attacks. They finally saw the clue. Li Shiqian showed a slight look of surprise. "Feng Heiyuan's right leg seems a bit stiff. Could it be injured?" Wang Yunja's eyes flashed with surprise. "Senior brother Hua, this junior sister Yan doesn't seem to be as bad in martial talent as you said. At least we didn't notice Feng Heiyuan's right leg had a problem. But this junior sister Yan keenly detected it. I'm now a bit interested in her." They were not the only ones surprised. The elders and disciples in the audience also showed looks of surprise. No one noticed Feng Heiyuan's leg injury except Yan Yuqing. The situation where Feng Heiyuan was supposed to crush Yan Yuqing turned into a tug-of-war due to Yan Yuqing's strategy of focusing on his right leg. Finally, Feng Heiyuan's leg injury worsened with every move, allowing Yan Yuqing to find an opening and send him flying out of the ring with a palm strike. Feng Heiyuan's eyes were full of unwillingness, but in the end he turned it into a trace of admiration, clasped his hands, and said, "Junior sister Yan, you have good observation skills. My leg injury is almost healed, and it's hard to see anything wrong. I didn't expect junior sister Yan to discover it." Yan Yuqing, panting, said with some guilt, "Victory is not honorable." Feng Heiyuan waved his hand. "Observation skills are also a part of a martial artist's strength. Senior brother admits defeat wholeheartedly." Under everyone's astonished gazes, the referee announced Yan Yuqing's complete victory. Yan Yuqing walked back lightly. Every step felt like stepping on cotton, feeling unreal. She actually defeated the leg technique expert Feng Heiyuan in a cross-level duel. Under countless gazes, she could hardly contain her joy. When she saw Jiang Fan in the seats, the respect in her eyes deepened. If not for Uncle's guidance, she wouldn't have had the slightest chance of winning. So she lifted her goose yellow long dress and ran over with a smile, just passing by Hua Xianxia and others' seats. Hua Xianxia smiled. "Junior sister Yuqing, congratulations. Your performance just now, senior sister Li and junior brother Wang were very impressed. Go prepare a pot of spirit wine and offer it to the two of them. If they're in a good mood, they might give you some pointers, which would be worth months or even a year of hard cultivation." How could Yan Yuqing have time to deal with them? She smiled hurriedly. "Sorry, senior brothers and sister, I have to accompany uncle." "Maybe next time." She happily returned to Jiang Fan's side and said excitedly, "Uncle, I followed your method and really won." Jiang Fan forced a smile and said, "This method is not very honorable. Using it too much among fellow disciples can hurt relationships. Against outsiders, there are no taboos. But among fellow disciples, it is best to use fewer tricks." As the one who pointed out this method, Jiang Fan also felt it wasn't very honorable. Yan Yuqing showed a bit of guilt. This method indeed did not earn her peace of mind in victory. However, it didn't stop her from being grateful to Jiang Fan. She took out a pot of spirit wine, poured 2 cups, giving 1 cup to Jiang Fan and drinking the other herself. She said, "Uncle, this cup is my thanks to you." This startled Cheng Xiaoleng. He exclaimed, "Yuqing, what are you doing? Aren't you offending senior sister Li and senior brother Wang this way?" Just now, when asked to toast the two of them, she said next time. But now she was toasting Jiang Fan. Yan Yuqing did not look at Hua Xianxia and the others' faces. With a serene expression on her delicate face, she said, "Let them be. What is wrong with respecting my own uncle?" After experiencing the incident with Jiang Qin, she gradually saw through it all. She had been oppressed by Jiang Qin not for just 1 or 2 days. She worked hard to build connections, but was there anyone who stood up for her? They merely saw her as a pretty accessory. They called her when they needed her, ignored her when they didn't. In contrast, the uncle she had just met stood up for her and guided her in her match. Do you need to say which is more important? And this scene completely embarrassed Li Shiqian and Wang Yunj. Outrageous, who does she think I Li Shiqian am? How dare she embarrass me like this? Wang Yunj also wore a sullen face, clearly angry. Giving her face by letting her toast, she refused. But she respectfully toasted some uncle. Fine. She values this uncle so much, does she? In the friendship match later, I'll see what capability this uncle of hers has. The sect's grand competition continued. Yan Yuqing went on stage twice more. With her previous great victory, her mindset was excellent and her performance was extraordinary. She won 2 consecutive victories. Martial uncle, 1 more victory and I'll be in the top 10. She was beaming with confidence. This was her best performance in several competitions. However, as the final 10 matches were arranged, the smile on Yan Yuqing's face disappeared. The last 10 matches were between the best performing disciples in this competition. The difficulty was naturally greater than before. In the 9th match, Yan Yuqing would face a female disciple named Luo Tianjiao. It's her. Cheng Xiaoleng rubbed his forehead. Yuqing, didn't you check the almanac before you left the house? Chai Yingrong looked sympathetic. You have such bad luck. The 2 strongest disciples in this competition are Feng Heiyuan and Luo Tianjiao. And you've encountered both of them. Yan Yuqing wore a bitter smile. How could I be a match for senior sister Luo? Her strength is even a bit higher than Luo Tianjiao's. Speaking of this, she couldn't help but joke. Martial uncle, if you can see where Luo Tianjiao is injured, don't forget to tell me. Jiang Fan couldn't help but laugh. She's perfectly fine. Just as Yan Yuqing's bitter smile deepened, Jiang Fan said, however, there should still be some time before you go on stage. During this time, I can help you improve your strength a bit. As for whether you win or not, that's up to you. Yan Yuqing was incredulous. Cheng Xiaoleng bluntly said, don't talk nonsense. Chai Yingrong shook her head and said, there's only 1 2-hour left before Yuqing goes on stage. How could the gap between them be bridged? They both glanced sideways at Jiang Fan, thinking he had become complacent after pointing out Feng Heiyuan's leg injury and helping Yan Yuqing win a match. Luo Tianjiao, after all, was in peak condition. She couldn't be defeated by mere tricks. But Jiang Fan had his reasons. He asked, Yuqing, the palm technique you're practicing, it should have some merit, right? Yan Yuqing revealed a trace of pride. Of course. Although Divine Dr. Peak does not focus on the martial path, my master has extensive connections. He is never short of top-tier cultivation techniques. What I'm practicing is the Cloud Luo palm, hailed as the #1 palm technique in the 9-sect land. Even among profound-level high techniques, it is considered peerless. Cheng Xiaoleng and Chai Yingrong sighed with envy. Isn't that right? Divine Dr. Peak never lacks in techniques. Otherwise, why would everyone want to apprentice under Elder Shangyuan? Jiang Fan understood. It matched his observation, but he continued to ask, do you think your palm technique is displaying its full power? Previously proud, Yan Yuqing now became ashamed. My comprehension is lacking, and I am the only one practicing this technique. I have no one to ask for advice. I have always figured it out by myself. Jiang Fan said, no wonder. I observed that your palm technique is powerful in form but weak in force, like a child wielding a heavy hammer, clearly possessing a sharp weapon yet unable to unleash half its power. You must have made a major mistake in your cultivation. Do you have the technique's instruction manual with you? Yan Yuqing was stunned for a moment. I do, uncle. Do you want to see it? Jiang Fan nodded. Yes, let me have a look. See if I can guide you to master it. If successful, you might have a chance against Luo Tianjiao. Cheng Xiaoleng and Chai Yingrong were dumbfounded. Even Yan Yuqing was dazed and uncertain. Uncle, you mean? In 1 2-hour, comprehend this technique and help me master it. Jiang Fan didn't say much. Give it to me and let me see. Yan Yuqing hesitated. This was her most prized possession, her biggest secret. No one was allowed to see it. But facing Jiang Fan's request, she reluctantly took it out and handed it to Jiang Fan. She thought in such a short time the martial uncle couldn't possibly learn much, right? Thinking this, she relaxed a bit. Jiang Fan took the technique manual and quickly skimmed through it. The profound-level high technique was not difficult for him. After a moment of comprehension with closed eyes, he gained insight. His eyes gleamed as he spoke decisively. Ice and fire double? He casually thrust his palm forward, and from his palm emerged two types of palm energies, ice and fire, diametrically opposed. The two forces intertwined and struck the iron chair in front of him, leaving a finger-deep dent. Yan Yuqing's eyes widened. "Uncle, you—" She couldn't believe it. It took her a year to comprehend the first layer. Her uncle had taken less than the time for a cup of tea. Jiang Fan withdrew his hand and said, "You must have made an error in the spiritual power circulation route, which is why the power of your palm technique is below expectation. Sit cross-legged, remember the circulation path." Yan Yuqing sat dazedly in front of Jiang Fan, allowing him to insert a thread of spiritual power into her body, which roamed inside her. Yan Yuqing remembered the circulation path with skepticism, then practiced it silently. "Yan Yuqing, Luo Tianjiao, come to the stage." A call broke Yan Yuqing's silent practice session. She opened her eyes, panicked. "Huh, so soon? I haven't practiced enough yet." Lost in practice, she hadn't noticed the swift passage of time. Suddenly being called to the stage, she was at a loss. Jiang Fan reassured, "Actual combat is the fastest way to improve. Go ahead." Having no other choice, Yan Yuqing had to grit her teeth and walk onto the stage to begin the match with the outstanding peer Luo Tianjiao. Li Shiqian stared at Yan Yuqing, snorted lightly. "Let's see how she wins this time. Last time, she won against Feng Heiyuan by luck and thought she was something." Wang Yunj reclined in his chair, glanced at Yan Yuqing, and indifferently said, "Win, how would she win? Junior sister Luo is the strongest prodigy of green bamboo peak in 10 years, unmatched among her peers. Her strength is something I've personally tested. Yan Yuqing will be defeated in 3 moves." But soon Wang Yunj couldn't help but sit up straight. Staring at the two intertwined figures on stage, he was a bit surprised. "Strange, why does Yan Yuqing's palm technique seem different?" Li Shiqian also exclaimed in surprise. "Take out the feeling, her palm technique has changed. The moves are the same, but the power has doubled. Only, why does it look so unfamiliar?" Hua Xianxia was also shocked. He was most familiar with Yan Yuqing and knew her strength well. At this moment, Yan Yuqing's palm technique had completely transformed. What happened? In the last round, her palm technique was still as before, lacking power. How did it change so drastically in just a 2-hour? In just a few breaths? The two had already exchanged 3 rounds. Yan Yuqing, due to unfamiliarity with the palm technique, was being defeated by Luo Tianjiao consistently. Is this the best a disciple of Divine Dr. Peak can do? Can't even execute the palm technique properly, haha. There were more female disciples who envied Yan Yuqing than just Jiang Qin alone. There were plenty of them. Yan Yuqing remained calm and continued to quickly familiarize herself with the palm technique during the actual combat. After 20 moves, Luo Tianjiao gradually felt something was wrong. She could no longer suppress Yan Yuqing. After 50 moves, she was shocked to find that Yan Yuqing could now unleash a powerful palm technique, comparable to herself. This panicked her. On the other hand, as Yan Yuqing's palm technique grew stronger, her excitement increased, and she fought with greater vigor. After a full 200 exchanges. Finally, Luo Tianjiao's changing mindset caused her to expose a flaw during an attack. Yan Yuqing, with sharp eyes and quick hands, decisively delivered a palm strike to her chest. Thud, 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 Luo Tianjiao staggered backward, falling off the stage. The judge announced in surprise in a loud voice, "The winner is Luo Tianjiao." The entire place went silent. Everyone's eyes widened, unable to accept the result. Unexpected upsets were a special occurrence in every grand competition. But Yan Yuqing, who usually performed averagely, defeating the proud daughter Luo Tianjiao. This enormous upset, who could accept it? Luo Tianjiao herself couldn't accept it. She climbed onto the stage, unwillingly shouted, "I don't accept this. Yan Yuqing cheated. She cheated. How could her technique change so drastically in just 1 2-hour? This, the judge was also puzzled. To ensure fairness, he sternly asked, "Yan Yuqing, how do you explain this?" Yan Yuqing's heart skipped a beat. In front of the sect master and numerous elders, how could she dare to bear such a dark accusation? She quickly replied, "Reporting to the judge, my martial uncle guided me in the palm technique." Martial uncle. Countless eyes simultaneously turned towards the quiet, fair-skinned youth sitting there. Tianjiao looked over. She saw it was a boy even younger than herself and couldn't help but laugh angrily. "Are you kidding? A kid who hasn't even grown his hair fully can guide you, and in a short time, make your cultivation technique undergo a qualitative change. You're simply insulting my intelligence." She cupped her hands towards the judge and said, "It's obvious that Yan Yuqing can't explain the changes in her cultivation technique. I highly suspect she used some underhanded methods to achieve this. The judge's expression was serious. What Yan Yuqing said about her martial uncle was indeed hard to believe. That boy should be an observer from the outer sect, right? Judging by his age, how many years could he have practiced the martial path? Being able to understand his own cultivation technique would already be commendable. How could he possibly guide others? Yan Yuqing, I am now skeptical of your result. If you cannot provide a reasonable explanation, your result will be cancelled. As punishment, you will also be disqualified from participating in the beast-tide defense. Yan Yuqing could only smile bitterly. No wonder others doubted her. Even she found it hard to believe this reason. She had just shown her cultivation technique to her martial uncle, who had grasped its essence within a tea time and guided her. If she told others, who would believe her? Judge, it's true, Yan Yuqing said helplessly. The judge frowned while his expression grew more stern. He shouted, if you continue to be stubborn, don't blame me for asking the sect master to execute the aforementioned punishment on you. On the stands, Jiang Fan felt somewhat helpless. He had thought that giving some secret guidance to Yan Yuqing would be enough. He hadn't expected to have to step forward to testify for her. With a sigh, he stood up and walked onto the stage. He cupped his hands towards the judge and also to the Supreme Sect Master and elders present. I am Jiang Fan, indeed Yan Yuqing's martial uncle. I was the one who guided her cultivation technique just now. Please do not misunderstand her. Seeing Jiang Fan really step forward to testify, Esther and elders all showed looks of doubt. He really dares to testify falsely, huh? In front of the Supreme Sect Master and the elders. Does he think we're easily fooled? No one believed it could be true. The defeated Luo Tianjia wouldn't believe it either and sneered, such boldness. Just to win Yan Yuqing's smile, you dare to openly deceive our Supreme Sect Master and elders. I have to say Yan Yuqing is truly enchanting. Has she bewitched your very soul? Jiang Fan frowned. He had seen people who couldn't accept losing, but not to this extent. Losing was losing, why slander people like this? It only highlighted her own malice and narrow-mindedness. What else? Yan Yuqing gritted her silver teeth, urgently defending. What nonsense are you spouting? This is my martial uncle. If you're unconvinced, I'll fight you again. If she had known that winning against Luo Tianjia would cause so much trouble, she would have preferred to lose. Jiang Fan, however, waved his hand, stopping her from speaking further. She never intended to reason. What's the point of speaking more? He then looked at the judge and said, Judge, every word I just said is true. If you don't believe me, you can verify at any time. The method of verification was naturally simple. That was to have Jiang Fan demonstrate Yan Yuqing's Cloud Luo palm. If his execution was more profound than Yan Yuqing's, that would be enough to show he was qualified to guide her. The judge looked to the Supreme Sect Master for permission. The latter slightly nodded. As the Sect Master, he neither tolerated disciples cheating in important events nor randomly wronged an outstanding disciple. Verifying Jiang Fan's palm technique was undoubtedly the most appropriate. With permission, the judge said, All right, then demonstrate Yan Yuqing's palm technique publicly. Let's see if you're qualified to guide her improvement. He cleared the space, giving Jiang Fan room to perform. Whether it was the Supreme Sect Master, the elders, or the disciples, everyone watched Jiang Fan, although many were watching, except for Cheng Xiaoleng and Cai Yingrong, who had witnessed it firsthand. No gaze was believing. Jiang Fan easily gathered a bit of spiritual energy. He performed the Cloud Luo palm, demonstrating it publicly. Ice and fire double. One palm strike, two opposing palm energies intertwined, striking the air ahead. With a whoosh, the air burst with a sharp bang. The judge's eyelid twitched. This move's power was far greater than what Yan Yuqing had demonstrated. If Yan Yuqing had such a skilled technique, Luo Tianjia would have lost countless moves ago. The observing Supreme Sect Master and the elders revealed surprised expressions. They nodded one after another, acknowledging Jiang Fan's qualification to guide. The disciples also showed a tinge of astonishment. This guy actually mastered Cloud Luo palm. But isn't this technique practiced only by Yan Yuqing? How does he know it? Oh, I get it. Since this person is Yan Yuqing's martial uncle, perhaps the technique was given to her by him. With this explanation, everyone suddenly understood. No one doubted Yan Yuqing's words anymore. Instead, they started pointing fingers at Luo Tianjia, who couldn't accept losing. Although we can understand Luo Tianjiao's feelings, accusing others of cheating after losing is a bit too much. Accusing others of cheating is one thing, but insulting Yan Yuqing by saying she seduced others to lie for her is another. Such character, Tusk? This kind of person is best avoided. Luo Tianjie was both anxious and angry. She had doubted Yan Yuqing but ended up drawing the disciple's resentment towards herself. She glared viciously at Jiang Fan and said, "You've mastered only this one move. Is this enough to prove you guided Yan Yuqing?" Upon hearing this, Yan Yuqing felt extremely annoyed. Luo Tianjie wouldn't cease her complaints. However, Jiang Fan had only comprehended that one move. How was he supposed to prove himself? "Luo Tianjie, don't go too far," Yan Yuqing said irritably. "If you really can't give up the ranking, I'll concede and give it to you." Luo Tianjie coldly snorted. "So you admit you cheated then?" "Judge, you heard it. Yan Yuqing admitted she was shameless and cheated." Jiang Fan started to be fed up with this woman. Enough was enough. He decided to make her shut up completely. "Who said I only know one move?" Using the time of their exchange, he had comprehended the rest of the technique's content. He immediately began to demonstrate on the spot. Second form, sun and moon radiance. Third form, 1 day of autumn and summer. Fourth form, myriad dharma same return. After performing the 4 forms, the others didn't feel much difference. Since in their understanding, the cloud Luo palm was passed to Yan Yuqing by Jiang Fan. It wasn't surprising he knew the whole set. However, only Yan Yuqing knew. Jiang Fan had just started to study this technique an hour ago, and before she went on stage, he had only comprehended the first form. After merely a sparring session, he had grasped the remaining 3 forms. This was some sort of heaven-defying comprehension. Luo Tianjie, yet again humiliated, ground her teeth in indignation. "Are you deliberately opposing me?" The judge couldn't stand it anymore. He sternly shouted, "Luo Tianjie, enough! Step down, stop disrupting the tournament." But Luo Tianjie stood her ground. Angrily pointing a finger at Jiang Fan, she said, "The friendship match is next. Do you dare fight me?" Just now, Jiang Fan only used a little spiritual power to perform his palm technique. His true strength hadn't been showcased. This made Luo Tianjie mistakenly think she could challenge Jiang Fan. "Not interested?" Jiang Fan outrightly refused. He was just here to observe the strength of the Supreme Sect disciples. Since the tournament was over, it had nothing to do with him anymore. Friendly matches and the like weren't part of his plan. After saying that, he left the stage on his own accord and returned to his seat. Yan Yuqing lifted her skirt and hurriedly followed. At this moment, Xianxia Leng's gaze towards Jiang Fan had completely changed. She nudged Yan Yuqing's arm and said with a tone of awe, "Yuqing, your martial uncle seems to have some good skills." Chai Yingrong respectfully said, "It's not just good skills, he's quite extraordinary. No wonder you suddenly respect your martial uncle so much." Yan Yuqing felt proud. She was very delighted in her heart. Not only did she win several matches, gaining great fame, her friends around her were also envious that she had such a great martial uncle. Today's gains were tremendous. "But why did your martial uncle refuse Luo Tianjie's challenge just now?" Xianxia Leng said with some displeasure. "That Luo Tianjie is usually very arrogant. Your martial uncle should teach her a lesson so she won't dare to be so overbearing in the future." Chai Yingrong quickly stopped her. "Don't give such reckless suggestions. Whether or not Luo Tianjie can be thoroughly taught a lesson is another matter. If something happens to her, do you think our senior brother Wang from Green Bamboo Peak would just stand by?" Xianxia Leng then remembered. Green Bamboo Peak's big senior brother Wang Yunj was present. Usually, Wang Yunj spoiled this talented junior sister a lot. If she were to get disciplined, would Wang Yunj remain indifferent? Not to mention not considering their relationship. Luo Tianjie, as Green Bamboo Peak's prodigy, getting defeated would tarnish Green Bamboo Peak's reputation. How could he stand by? In terms of both emotion and reason, Wang Yunj would step in. Thinking of this, Xianxia Leng stuck out her tongue. "Forget I said anything." At this moment, the 10th and final bout of the Supreme Sect disciples was over. Jiang Fan had no more interest in watching and said, "Yuqing, let's go. Let's go back to Divine Dr. Peak and see if your master's spiritual medicine is ready." Hearing this, Yan Yuqing, who had been in a cheerful mood, suddenly felt empty and a bit disappointed. Even though she had only been with Jiang Fan for less than half a day, he had given her so many surprises. Realizing Jiang Fan was about to leave, she felt reluctant to part with him. However, Jiang Fan wanted to leave, but that didn't mean everyone was willing to let him go. "Junior sister Yan, you performed well just now, even defeating my junior sister." Wang Yunj, with Luo Tianjie in tow, walked over with his hands behind his back. His words were plain, yet carried an overbearing tone. The surrounding disciples saw this and quickly dispersed. Clearly, Wang Yunj was there to stand up for his junior sister, and while it seemed he was troubling Yan Yuqing, his actual target was Jiang Fan. Yan Yuqing felt a bit scared. Wang Yunj was a top-level disciple of the Supreme Sect. She never had the chance to even curry favor with him usually. Now he was suddenly finding fault with her. How could she stay calm? She quickly cupped her hands and said, "Senior brother Wang, senior sister Luo was being modest." Wang Yunj snorted through his nose and coldly said, "Junior sister Yan is being modest. You are very impressive. I didn't even take it to heart. Isn't it normal to beat my junior sister?" He still remembered that Yan Yuqing twice refused to accompany them earlier. Now he was here to settle the score. Yan Yuqing felt bitter in her mouth and quickly apologized. "Senior brother Wang, I have offended many times. Please forgive me." Despite her lowering her stance so much, Wang Yunj still showed no sign of letting it go. He pressed, "I cannot accept your apology. After all, you are so powerful that in a real fight I would not be your match. Wang is not talented and wishes to learn a few moves from junior sister Yan. Please do not be stingy with your guidance." The surrounding disciples were silently taken aback. Wang Yunj clearly intended not to let Yan Yuqing go. He wanted to take this opportunity to harshly teach her a lesson. And it seemed that while disciplining Yan Yuqing, the real face he wanted to slap was that of Jiang Fan, her martial uncle. Jiang Fan understood his true intention. Rubbing his temples, he said, "You guys really don't give it a rest. One after another, never stopping. What do you want? Just say it." These two siblings had too narrow a mind, turning a normal match's outcome into a personal grudge. He didn't care. He could just leave and never come back to the Supreme Sect. What could they do to him? The problem was, if he left, these two siblings would likely vent their anger on Yan Yuqing. A round of physical and verbal humiliation would be inevitable, so might as well see it through to the end. Wang Yunj had been waiting for Jiang Fan to speak up and said, "Good. At least you have the guts to stand up. I won't bully you, just accept my junior sister's challenge." "Is there a problem?" Jiang Fan was a well-known disciple without a spirit root. His cultivation was pitifully low, even if he had a complete set of the Cloud Luo palm. How much power could he actually wield? His junior sister dealing with him would be effortless. Jiang Fan looked at Luo Tianjiao's glaring face and shook his head. "She won't do. You should come directly." Luo Tianjiao's face immediately changed. In a sharp voice, she shouted, "Who did you say isn't qualified? I, Luo Tianjiao, could be less capable than a disciple without a spirit root from Green Cloud Sect." "What a joke!" She pointed at Jiang Fan and said, "You are insulting me. I will follow this through to the end today." Wang Yunj scoffed disdainfully. "Fight me. I can't bring myself to bully a disciple without a spirit root. If word gets out, would I want to keep my face? If you want to fight me, beat my junior sister first." Jiang Fan did not want to bully Luo Tianjiao, but they insisted on it. "Ask and you shall receive." What else could he say? "All right then." Luo Tianjiao then revealed a look of satisfaction. Staring at Jiang Fan, she coldly said, "You better pray that your body is strong enough to endure a beating." "I hit very hard," Jiang Fan chuckled. "It's funny, I hit very hard too." Soon, the two of them went to the stage. The Supreme Sect master, elders, and many disciples who were about to leave, seeing someone willing to participate in the friendly match, stayed back. Many disciples who were observing felt the same as Jiang Fan. Participating in a friendly match and losing would bring shame to their sect. If they won, the Supreme Sect would look bad. So they had the attitude of doing less is better than doing more. Although the friendly match rules existed, very few people actually went on stage. This time, it was rare for an outer sect disciple to go on stage. Naturally, it piqued their interest. Compared to watching internal sparring among disciples, sparring between outer sect and Supreme Sect disciples was more compelling because it represented the face of both sects. The outcome was critical. The outcome may be important, but the Supreme Sect people still appeared quite relaxed, because it was Luo Tianjiao, the pride of their disciples, who was stepping up. Her strength was undeniable. Her opponent was a young disciple from the Green Cloud Sect. It was said he had no spirit root. Therefore, they truly couldn't find a reason to worry. The referee looked at the two, saying, "This is a friendly match with harmony as the main principle. So, hit to the point only, no malicious harm. If violated, both our sect and the outside sect will punish the violator severely. Understand?" The friendly match was a platform for the Supreme Sect to spar with outside sects. Heavy injuries or fatalities would violate the initial intention of holding a friendly match. Thus, there was such a rule. Luo Tianjiao crossed her arms over her chest, chuckling. "Of course, I have no problem." as long as he doesn't act like a sore loser and resort to sneak attacks. Jiang Fan, with his hands behind his back, replied indifferently. A sore loser who accuses others of cheating without evidence, smearing them as seducers, that's you, isn't it? It was incredible that she had the nerve to mention sore loser. Luo Tianjiao's features twisted in anger. You. All right. I'm done talking with you. Let's see if your strength is as formidable as your mouth, Jiang Fan said calmly. Then watch closely, don't miss it. Luo Tianjia was furious. This guy had such a sharp tongue. She swore she would use this sparring opportunity to smack his mouth severely. As for the rules, smacking his mouth wouldn't count as malicious harm. It was just his lack of skill. Referee, I'm ready. She couldn't wait any longer. Jiang Fan also appeared relaxed, saying, I'm ready too. The referee nodded, then left the ring. With a loud shout of begin, their sparring officially started, in the stands. Cheng Xiaoleng was a bit worried. Yuqing, why didn't you stop your master uncle? Chai Yingrong also reproached. Luo Tianjiao is not to be trifled with, and your master uncle has no spirit root. Once they clash, your master uncle is sure to suffer a great loss. But Yan Yuqing showed no sign of worry. Instead, she said mysteriously, don't talk, watch carefully. Do you really think my master uncle is just anyone? The two women showed expressions of surprise. Could Jiang Fan actually have a chance of winning on the other side? Hua Xianxia stared at Jiang Fan's figure with a bit of displeasure in his eyes. This arrogant fool deserves a lesson. But don't hit too hard, as junior sister Chaozong seems to respect him quite a bit. If he's hurt, junior sister Chaozong will definitely stand up for him. Li Shiqian looked contemptuous. Hiding behind women, what's that? It only makes people despise him more. Wang Yunj, however, comfortably crossed his legs, hands behind his head. With a look of smug pleasure, he said, relax. My junior sister knows her limits and won't injure him, but giving him a few slaps to wake him up is probably unavoidable. Hua Xianxia smiled comfortably. He said lightly he should recognize his own worth. Otherwise, just because he's called an uncle, he thinks he can flaunt his power in the Supreme Sect. Thinking of Xia Chaozong and Yan Yuqing, two beautiful women highly respecting Jiang Fan. He felt like a thorn was in his heart. Wang Yunj glanced sideways at the ring, noticing that Luo Tianjiao had made the first move. A smile appeared on his lips. How about we make a bet? Let's see how many moves Jiang Fan can last against my junior sister. I'll start at most 3 moves. If I lose, I'll pay each of you 200 crystal stones. Li Shiqian got an interested pondering. Then I'll bet 4 moves. Since he knows the powerful Cloud Luo palm, he shouldn't fall that quickly. Hua Xianxia smiled faintly. Since junior brother and junior sister are in such high spirits, I'll join as well. I'll bet 5 moves. Being called the uncle by Xia Chaozong and Yan Yuqing, he should have some cat's claw skills. Wang Yunj laughed heartily. Looks like I'm about to win 400 crystal stones. 3 moves, that's me being generous. Didn't expect you guys to give him even more credit, thinking he can last 4 or 5 moves against my junior sister. Ha ha ha, as he laughed. Luo Tianjiao, with a vicious smile, slapped Jiang Fan's chest. As a foundation establishment 7th layer dealing with one without a spirit root, wasn't that a piece of cake? She had already planned. The first slap to knock Jiang Fan down, the second kick to step on his face, the third grab to lift him from the ground. Then the main act, a few hard slaps on his face. However, imagination was beautiful, reality was harsh. Jiang Fan always had his hands behind his back. When the slap was near his chest, he nonchalantly put down his right hand, lightly waving it, striking her wrist. Ow. Luo Tianjiao's wrist immediately felt immense pain, as if her bone had cracked. She cried out in pain, her face showing agony. Jiang Fan said, "Why did you stop?" Luo Tianjiao was humiliated and angry, feeling that Jiang Fan had used some magical treasure to sneak an attack. Taking advantage of her bowed position, she swept her right leg towards his calf, trying to sweep him off his feet. Bam, however, when her delicate calf kicked Jiang Fan's leg. She immediately felt like she had kicked a stone. A sharp pain shot through her calf. Jiang Fan shook his head. "Is that all you've got?" Saying this, he swung his leg, hitting her chest. With immense force, it knocked her backward onto the ground. And that was not the end. The force continued unabated, pushing her on the rough stone bricks for 2 or 3 yards before stopping. Her scalp was constantly being scraped, with blood flowing. What's more, when she struggled to get up, everyone saw that her hair at the back of her head had been scraped off, leaving her bald. When Luo Tianjiao touched the back of her head, she immediately screamed, "Ah, my hair!" Then she raised her angry eyes, glaring at Jiang Fan. She rushed at him, shouting, "I'm going to kill you. Kill me?" Jiang Fan narrowed his eyes. You guys called for a friendly sparring. Can't play fair and now yelling about killing. Who taught you such bad manners? Without a second thought, he swung his leg. His leg moved like a whip. Luo Tianjiao couldn't react before she was hit in the waist, and flew 4 or 5 yards away, landing just outside the ring. 3 moves. In just 3 moves, Luo Tianjiao was knocked out of the ring. The Supreme Sect disciples were stunned. The highly regarded Luo Tianjiao was knocked out by a Green Cloud Sect disciple with no spirit root after just one encounter. The Supreme Sect Master raised his eyebrows in surprise. Whose disciple is he? From his appearance, he seems to be on the body refinement path with quite an extraordinary physique. He should be a giant sect disciple, right? Arrogant, the only one who recognized Jiang Fan was Sheng, who was still refining spiritual medicine. The other elders nodded one after another. Only disciples from the giant sect can refine their physique to the point where they can withstand the 7th layer of foundation establishment. Moreover, they must also be exceptionally talented seedlings. Give this boy 10 years, and the giant sect will have another elder-level powerhouse to take on great responsibilities. Jiang Fan retracted his leg. Looking at Luo Tianjiao, who was covered in bruises, he said lightly, "I already told you didn't have what it takes." Luo Tianjiao, who was already filled with humiliation, felt even more insulted upon hearing the words, "You didn't have what it takes." "I'll fight you to the end," she screamed and rushed onto the stage, intending to continue. Jiang Fan couldn't be bothered with her and looked at the somewhat stunned referee. It was obvious that the referee was also taken aback by such an unexpected result. When the referee came to his senses, he hurriedly scolded, "Luo Tianjiao, step down. Otherwise you'll be dealt with according to the sect rules." Luo Tianjiao trembled, fearful of the sect rules. She could only glare at Jiang Fan with great reluctance before stepping down. Jiang Fan then turned his gaze upward, looking at the stiff faces of Hua Xianxia, Li Shiqian, and Wang Yunj. They had thought that Jiang Fan could at most hold out for 5 moves. However, the reality was that Luo Tianjiao couldn't even withstand 1 round. At this moment, being stared at by Jiang Fan made all 3 of them look extremely uncomfortable. Especially Wang Yunj. Luo Tianjiao's defeat meant Green Bamboo Peak had lost face. He slammed his chair and stood up with a loud thud. "Arrogant," Wang Yunj snorted heavily. "A useless person from the Green Cloud sect. You learned some insignificant body refinement techniques halfway through, and you dare to show off in my Supreme sect. How dare you bully my junior sister? You two sit tight, I'll be back shortly." After saying that, he walked onto the stage with his hands behind his back. His appearance immediately drew cheers from the disciples of the Supreme Sect. "Big senior brother from Green Bamboo Peak is on stage. Ha ha ha, this boy must be regretting it now." He actually provoked Wang Yunj to take action. Senior brother Wang is a first-rate expert at the 9th layer of foundation establishment, and his fist technique is astonishingly powerful. Jiang Fan's small frame could never withstand a punch from senior brother Wang. Seeing Wang Yunj step in for her, Luo Tianjiao couldn't help but wipe her tears in grievance. "Boo-hoo, senior brother Wang, you have to avenge me. Look at him, he ruined my hair." Hearing this, Wang Yunj's gaze towards Jiang Fan became even colder. He slightly raised his chin and looked down his nose, snorting, "Being so harsh on a woman, are you even a man?" Jiang Fan wasn't intimidated by his scolding at all. On the contrary, he seemed very composed. "If I remember correctly, I said in the beginning that she didn't have what it takes and that you should come directly. You insisted that she was formidable and disdained engaging with me. You had to let your junior sister come first. I didn't even use any techniques, trying my best to suppress my strength. But she got so badly injured either because she's too weak or because you didn't listen to my advice." "Which is it?" Wang Yunj's expression froze. The truth was indeed so. But who could have thought that Jiang Fan, despite his poor spirit root, had a hidden body refinement technique? He snorted heavily. "Enough with the nonsense. I'm here to seek justice for my junior sister. I won't bully you, I'll let you make 3 moves first. After 3 moves, you either surrender or I'll knock you down with 1 punch. There's no third option," Jiang Fan chuckled. No wonder they were senior and junior. They were equally unreasonable. "No need to let me, or you'll be like your junior sister and refuse to admit your loss." Jiang Fan waved his hand dismissively. He really didn't want to argue any further with their junior sister. The sooner he dealt with Wang Yunj, the sooner he could show that Yuqing wasn't someone to be bullied. The sooner he could get away. Wang Yunj laughed in anger. "Do you think I would refuse to accept a loss? What a joke! How could I possibly lose to someone like you? It seems that by challenging you, I've given you inexplicable courage. I was going to let you make 3 moves to avoid accusations of me bullying the weak. Since you're so insolent, let me fulfill your wish. Referee, I'm ready. Jiang Fan said expressionlessly. I'm also ready. We can start any time. The referee looked worryingly at Jiang Fan. After a slight hesitation, he said, Remember the rules, no malicious harm. Then he stepped out of the ring and said, Begin, in the stands. Xianxia sighed worriedly. Things have escalated to this point. Senior brother Wang looks so angry, he certainly won't hold back. Chai Yingrong said anxiously, Jiang Fan is in big trouble. Let's hope the referee can step in time. At this moment, they noticed that Yan Yuqing only frowned slightly. She wasn't as anxious as they were. Xianxia asked suspiciously, Yuqing, do you really think your martial uncle can beat senior brother Wang? This, Yan Yuqing showed a hint of hesitation and said, Winning or losing, it's hard to say. But I don't think he'll lose that badly. Before coming here, my martial uncle taught Jiang Qin a lesson. In front of my martial uncle, Jiang Qin had no chance to fight back. What? The 2 women were stunned. Jiang Qin is at the 8th layer of foundation establishment and is said to have mastered movement techniques. If she couldn't beat him, she should at least be able to run away, right? Yan Yuqing nodded. This made the 2 women find it hard to believe that Jiang Fan, without a spirit root, could be this strong. The Supreme Sect Master was also somewhat worried and reminded, Keep an eye on Wang Yunj. He doesn't seem like someone who would stop at the right moment. The elders nodded one after another. The giant sect is very domineering. If something happens to their disciple in our Supreme Sect, they won't let it go easily. Don't worry, we're watching. Wang Yunj won't go too far. On the other side, Hua Xianqian watched the infuriated Wang Yunj, a knowing smile appearing at the corner of his mouth as he muttered to himself. Jiang Fan, oh Jiang Fan, this time you've really hit a steel wall, haven't you? Li Shiqian leisurely held a teacup and said, I'd really like to see how many of senior brother Wang's palms Jiang Fan's vaunted physique can withstand. Thud on the stage. Wang Yunj made the first move. With a stomp of his right foot, he, who possessed the 9th layer of foundation establishment, instantly displayed impressive strength that astonished everyone. Strong spiritual power, a high-level, profound cultivation technique. With a palm strike, it was like a fierce tiger descending a mountain, unstoppable. Ordinary disciples facing this move would lose their courage before even engaging. Jiang Fan nodded slightly and said, Indeed, you have some skill. Much stronger than your junior sister. Listening to his condescending evaluation, Wang Yunj laughed in anger. Who do you think you are to evaluate me? Get down. His palm strike was powerful, quick, and ruthless. Jiang Fan's hands, which had been behind his back, came forward as he said, All right, let me test the limits of my body technique then. Heavenly Battle 9 forms, mountain shattering. Bang, with the Phoenix Blood treasure body, coupled with a high-level, profound, close combat skill for the first time. Under one punch, the power was incomparable to before. One punch and one palm, like 2 iron bars, collided fiercely together, with a sound that made teeth ache. One of them stumbled back several steps. And when they saw who had stumbled back, from the sect master and elders down to the disciples, everyone voiced their astonishment. Only to see the one who was shaken back. It wasn't Jiang Fan, but the big senior brother of Green Bamboo Peak, a top-tier expert of the Supreme Sect. Wang Yunj? Could senior uncle be even stronger? In the stands, Yan Yuqing exclaimed. She had thought that her earlier analysis, that senior uncle wouldn't lose too badly, was already taking a high view of his abilities. But now she was pleasantly surprised to find. She had greatly underestimated this incredibly mysterious senior uncle. Xianxia and Chai Yingrong were both stunned, mouths agape. No way, Yuqing, is your senior uncle this powerful. Among the Supreme Sect, there are few who can forcefully push back my senior brother Wang with a single punch. Hua Xianqian also suddenly straightened up, looking at Jiang Fan with some astonishment. He's actually this strong? Li Shiqian quickly set down the teacup in her hand, staring incredulously at the scene on the stage. It must be that junior brother Wang was careless. With junior brother Wang's strength, he should be able to completely overwhelm his opponent. The Supreme Sect Master was also a bit surprised at this moment. He couldn't help but curiously examine Jiang Fan. Facing off against the 9th layer of foundation establishment with just his physique, and so young too, it looks as though he's only recently joined the sect. Does the giant sect have such a disciple? The elders also appeared puzzled. Information about the disciples of each sect had actually been collected by the others. The Supreme Sect had a clear understanding of the promising new disciples from the giant sect. But this one before them, they were unfamiliar with. While they were discussing, the situation on the stage changed. Jiang Fan casually said, "Fortunately, you didn't let me have 3 moves or the match would be over by now." Wang Yunj was in disbelief. In a head-on clash, it wasn't Jiang Fan who spewed blood and flew back. It was himself who was shaken back. What surprised him even more was the searing pain in his palm. Looking at Jiang Fan, he seemed completely unscathed. Listening to Jiang Fan's words, Wang Yunj felt both ashamed and angry. The duel just started and you're already acting so proud. Since that's the case, I won't hold back anymore. Overlord's crushing back. He decisively exhibited his most proficient fist technique. Its power was overbearing and overwhelmingly fierce. Jiang Fan also said, "Now that's more like it." Only in this way could he test the limits of the Phoenix blood treasure body. He immediately rushed forward. Shattering cloud, shocking thunder, wind breaking. The two of them unleashed their full strength, neither one able to gain the upper hand. This left the entire audience spellbound. Many disciples who thought Wang Yunj was careless were now staring blankly. Unable to believe that such a top-tier disciple of the Supreme Sect could be on par with a disciple from the Green Cloud Sect without a spirit root. But what they didn't know was, at this moment Wang Yunj became more shocked and uncomfortable the more he fought. Because, unlike Jiang Fan, who was calmly validating his strength, Jiang Fan's moves became stronger with each strike. Wang Yunj had already used his strongest techniques, but their skills were inversely proportional to each other. Moreover, with each clash, Wang Yunj's palm suffered a severe impact, causing him unbearable pain. He was barely holding on just to save face. However, when Jiang Fan used the final strike of the Heavenly Battle 9 forms, he couldn't endure it anymore. Sky opening! This ultimate strike, combined with the Phoenix blood treasure body, unleashed a terrifyingly powerful blow. Wang Yunj's palm that clashed was swept aside. His open chest was ruthlessly hit by Jiang Fan's punch. Bang! With a muffled thud, Wang Yunj flew horizontally and crashed down the stage, even head first. Greatly risking severe injury, Jiang Fan had anticipated this. Using a movement technique, he dashed over in a single step and grabbed Wang Yunj by the waist, thus allowing him to land on his back. Though he still fell badly, he did not sustain any severe injuries. Wang Yunj struggled to get up, feeling like his bones were going to fall apart. His right palm was even more searing with pain, like it was burning. What stung even more was his face. He actually lost. Lost to a Green Cloud Sect disciple without a spirit root. How could he, a top disciple of the Supreme Sect, accept that? He clenched his teeth and shouted, "I'm not convinced. Let's go again." Jiang Fan was speechless, just like his junior sister, unable to accept defeat. The referee sternly approached and shouted, "Stand down now. Don't bring disgrace to your green bamboo peak. If not for your opponent reaching out at the last moment, you'd either be dead or severely injured now." However, this was not a favor to Wang Yunj, but rather an insult, an indelible insult. Not only had he lost to his opponent, but he had to rely on his opponent to save his life. He was not willing to accept it. Clenching his teeth, he glared fiercely at Jiang Fan. But he couldn't continue the fight. No chance for revenge? In the stands, seeing Wang Yunj's dejected and pale look, unable to seek revenge, Li Shiqian, as a longtime friend, felt pity. When she looked at Jiang Fan again, her eyes burned with a trace of anger. "Are you addicted to bullying people from the Supreme Sect?" She suddenly stood up and leaped onto the stage with powerful strides. "I want to challenge you. Not for anything else, but to be fair to junior brother Wang." Jiang Fan had a headache. When will it end? He straightforwardly refused. "Sorry, I do not accept challenges." He came to the stage only to teach Wang Yunj and his junior sister Luo Tianjiao a lesson, to make them apprehensive and stop bullying Yan Yuqing in the future. But he never intended to challenge all the Supreme Sect elites. Speaking, he began to step off the stage. Li Shiqian snorted. "You will fight whether you want to or not." Jiang Fan narrowed his eyes and looked at her. "If I don't fight, what will you do?" Li Shiqian thought for a moment, then set her sights on Yan Yuqing. "Then I'll trouble Yan Yuqing every day, making it unbearable for her to stay in the Supreme Sect." Jiang Fan stopped walking. He slowly turned around. "You found a very good reason. All right, since you seek humiliation, I'll grant your wish." Upon hearing this, Wang Yunj below the stage sneered. "You only won by luck. Do you really think you're invincible? Let me tell you, senior sister Li is already at 9th layer perfection of foundation establishment, just a step away from breaking through to core formation." Your meager physique won't withstand a single move from her. Really. Jiang Fan remained emotionless, calmly saying, "Just right, I haven't found the limits of my body technique on you. Let's try it on someone stronger." The Phoenix blood treasure body was not just about physical strength. He hadn't fully activated it just now. Wang Yunji's loss came too soon. These words certainly infuriated Wang Yunji, who shouted, "Arrogant! See if you can withstand 3 moves from senior sister Li." Jiang Fan didn't hesitate. He turned to the referee and said, "I'm ready." Li Shiqian was also amused by Jiang Fan's confidence and angered. In the Supreme Sect, besides senior brother Hua and junior sister Xia Caozong, no one dares underestimate me like this. Fine, after 3 moves, let's see if you still have that confidence. I am ready too. The disciples in the stands showed expressions of excitement. Senior sister Li will definitely not fail. Of course, senior sister Li is the third gate face of our Supreme Sect. If she loses, the reputation of the Supreme Sect will be in danger. Cheng Xiaoleng and Chai Yingrong were at a loss for words. Despite being disciples of the Supreme Sect, they felt their side was being too much. One after another, they wouldn't leave Jiang Fan alone. If they didn't defeat Jiang Fan, they wouldn't give up. Yuqing couldn't sit still either. She knew how terrifying Li Shiqian was. Both being at the 9th layer of foundation establishment, Li Shiqian was much stronger than Wang Yunji. They had fought before, and Wang Yunji lost within 10 moves. Jiang Fan would struggle to withstand 3 moves from Li Shiqian. She could only look toward the Supreme Sect Master, hoping he would step in to stop this already unfriendly match. At this moment, the Supreme Sect Master hesitated as well. The competition had changed its nature. It had become a small clique's revenge and suppression against Jiang Fan. He tried to suggest, "How about canceling the competition? If this spreads, it will be said that my Supreme Sect disciples are too petty." An elder opposed. "It's too late to stop now. Wang Yunji represents the top level of our Supreme Sect. Such a miserable defeat. If no other disciple redeems the situation, how will outsiders view our Supreme Sect? Will they say that our Supreme Sect is just an empty facade?" The other elders also supported continuing the battle. Even if it resulted in a narrow-minded disciple's reputation, they couldn't let the Supreme Sect's prestige fall. The Supreme Sect Master thought it made sense and gave the referee a look. The referee felt some sympathy for Jiang Fan. Unfortunately, compelled by the situation, Jiang Fan had to fight. He kindly reminded, "If you're tired, you can rest for a while before continuing." After 2 consecutive intense battles, he worried that Jiang Fan would suffer against Li Shiqian. Jiang Fan cupped his fists. "Thank you for your concern, referee. I'm fine. We can start at any time." The referee nodded and looked at Li Shiqian. The latter slightly raised her long, snow-white neck. "Don't look at me. No preparation is needed to fight him." The referee nodded again. He stepped off the stage and said, "Begin." Li Shiqian looked at Jiang Fan calmly and said, "At most 3 moves and you'll roll off the stage." With that, she took the initiative to attack. Star-picking finger? What she utilized was a set of finger techniques. As soon as she struck, it caused the air to explode, bursting with a powerful penetrating force. Jiang Fan's face slightly changed. "Earth-level finger technique? No wonder you're so confident. Since that's the case, I'll also use my full-body technique." Thus, he immediately shouted in a deep voice, "Phoenix blood treasure body. Activate." His body immediately emitted crackling sounds like frying beans. This was the sound of his bones moving. Immediately afterward, the blood flow in his body accelerated several times. His skin quickly turned blood red. It was like he was on fire. His strength, speed, response, and senses all rose by several levels in an instant. Li Shiqian's seemingly lightning-fast finger techniques, at this moment, appeared to him as if slowed down like an ordinary person pointing at him. The power of his physique poured out like a floodgate opening. No more hesitation. Jiang Fan decisively struck. Heavenly Battle 9 forms. Sky opening, with Phoenix blood treasure body fully activated, along with the ultimate technique of the Heavenly Battle 9 forms. This was the limit of his body technique. Let's see if Li Shiqian could withstand it. In an instant, Jiang Fan turned into a mass of flames, rushing forward at an even faster speed. His fist collided with the finger technique of the earth-level technique midair. "Ah!" Instantly, a scream came from Li Shiqian's mouth. Her index finger was bent and obviously broken. At the same time, the flame-like fist, carrying the surging power of sky opening, slammed into Li Shiqian's chest. Puff, she immediately spat out a mouthful of blood mist. Her tall body flew out like a paper doll, crashing heavily away. Wang Yunji exclaimed, "Senior Sister Li!" He hurriedly reached out to catch her. But as he did, he felt like he was catching not a person, but a falling mountain. With a thud, Li Shiqian's body crashed into his arms like a piece of iron, knocking him to the ground as well. A sweet metallic taste rose in his throat, and finally he couldn't hold it back, spraying out blood mist. The whole place fell into a deathly silence. One strike. With just one strike, Jiang Fan had sent the third strongest in the Supreme Sect flying with a punch, and additionally caused the fourth-ranked Wang Yunj to spit blood. What level of power was that punch after a long time? Cheng Xiaoleng, whose eyes were wide open, let out a cheer. He won, he won. Halfway through the cheer, she quickly closed her mouth because pairs of angry eyes were staring at her. As a disciple of the Supreme Sect, she should be ashamed that someone from the outer sect won. But she cheered instead. Cha Yingrong's mouth twitched. Evidently, she also wanted to cheer, but she held back. Yan Yuqing covered her face with both hands. Underneath her hands was naturally a face full of ecstasy. Through the gaps in her fingers, she looked at that fair-skinned, handsome, and elegant martial uncle. Her beautiful eyes sparkled. The Supreme Sect Master and all the elders fell into silence. With just one move, Li Shiqian was disastrously defeated. The disparity was so great that it was hard for them to accept. An elder from before, who had clamored to redeem the situation, felt a bit regretful. If he had known Li Shiqian would lose so disgracefully, he should have stopped them from sparring just now. Now they were in a difficult situation. Continuing was impossible, and disbanding the friendly match was also impossible. He reluctantly asked, "Sect Master, what should we do now?" The Supreme Sect Master, with a sullen face, said, "What else can we do? Do you really want to let him leave the Supreme Sect just like that?" He looked towards the stage at the only remaining top expert, his prized disciple, Hua Xianxia. "Xianxia, since you're here, why don't you go up and play a bit too? Remember to show some restraint." Hua Xianxia had long been unable to hold back, watching Jiang Fan's reputation grow and Yan Yuqing's admiration deepen. It was more painful than killing him. Why was it that someone without a spirit root could run rampant in the Supreme Sect and take away the admiration that belonged to him? He immediately got up and swiftly moved to the stage. First, he checked their injuries. He found that Wang Yunj, cushioning Li Shiqian earlier, had sustained internal injuries, and discovered that Li Shiqian had a broken finger. Then, looking at Luo Tianjiao's pitiful state, his heart burned with anger. Was Jiang Fan bullying the Supreme Sect because he thought no one was there? He walked onto the stage with his sword. Containing his anger, his face showed a gentle smile like a spring breeze. "Junior brother Jiang, it's hard to refuse the Master's order. Please grant me your guidance." Jiang Fan's gaze revealed a penetrating look. He bluntly pierced through. "You've long wanted to come up and teach me a lesson, haven't you?" Hua Xianxia's smile briefly froze before continuing. "Junior brother, you must be joking. I can't even worry enough about your safety." Jiang Fan sneered. "If you truly wanted to stop them from bullying, would they have been able to come on stage?" Hua Xianxia was the top disciple, the sect master's first disciple. Wang Yunj and Li Shiqian respected him greatly. If Hua Xianxia had stopped them, would there have been Wang Yunj threatening Yan Yuqing and Jiang Fan being forced to fight? Everything was encouraged and supported by him behind the scenes. Now showing a good guy's appearance, trying to make Jiang Fan lower his guard. This little trick, Jiang Fan saw through at a glance. Hua Xianxia's facial muscles twitched a few times. Suppressing his anger, he said calmly, "Junior brother Jiang, I don't understand what you're saying. Just one question, are you accepting my challenge or not?" If he didn't accept, at the very least, outsiders would think Jiang Fan feared Hua Xianxia and didn't dare to fight. It would somewhat restore the Supreme Sect's image. Of course, accepting would be the best. Hua Xianxia, with absolute strength, would defeat him harshly, further solidifying the Supreme Sect's powerful image. Jiang Fan didn't think much. Having fought to this point, there was no reason not to fight Hua Xianxia, who was behind all this. If a fight was to be had, then fight to the end, defeat all the elite disciples of the Supreme Sect. His gaze became sharp. He drew the black sword on his back with a backhand. A captivating sword chi resounded with a clang. The sharp sword light directly pointed at Hua Xianxia. From his mouth, he uttered a resounding word: "Fight." The word battle, forging ahead without hesitation, caused many people present to tremble slightly in their hearts. Could it be that he truly has the confidence to challenge Senior Brother Hua? Senior Brother Hua is a core formation realm martial artist. His strength is only below Xia Caozong's. Does he think because he won against Wang Yunj and Li Shiqian unexpectedly, he has the qualification to challenge senior brother Hua? Yan Yuqing could no longer sit still. She had already stood up, anxiously saying, "How could Uncle Master Jiang be a match for senior brother Hua?" She didn't know much about Wang Yunj and Li Shiqian, but she was quite clear about Hua Xianxia, whom she interacted with often. Not only had he reached the first layer of the core formation realm, but he was also practicing a profound level, high-grade and exquisite swordsmanship. She had heard that he planned to compete for the gold list, to break into the top 10 in one fell swoop, making the Supreme Sect the one to have 2 disciples in the top 10 of the gold list. Jiang Ryu's body technique had already reached its limit against Li Shiqian. How could he possibly be a match for Hua Xianxia? Xia Leng, quickly go to the Divine Dr. Peak and ask my master to leave seclusion. I fear senior brother Hua might do Jiang Uncle Master harm. After much contemplation, the only solution was to ask the elder master to step in. Cheng Xiaoleng understood the urgency of the situation, nodded, and hurried off to the Divine Doctor Peak. Seeing Jiang Fan agree to the battle, the Supreme Sect Master and all the elders finally breathed a sigh of relief. This kid can make my pupil take action personally. He has earned his pride. The Supreme Sect Master took a sip of tea, his expression relaxed. Soon his name will spread across the 9-sect land. The elders also relaxed, chatting and laughing. He won't last more than a few moves in Hua Xianxia's hands. Although his body technique is strong, facing someone far stronger than himself, he can only defend, not attack. With each passing moment, even the strongest physique cannot withstand continuous attacks. Defeat is only a matter of time. Hua Xianxia himself was watching Jiang Fan's sword-gripping action, slightly frowning. As someone who mastered swordsmanship as his main cultivation technique, he could sense that Jiang Fan's sword-gripping action was very adept, not treating it merely as an object. "Do you also understand swordsmanship?" Hua Xianxia asked. "Swordsmanship, isn't it controllable only through cultivation techniques?" Jiang Fan responded calmly. "I know a little. Can we start?" Hua Xianxia felt a sneer in his heart. "Quite confident, aren't you? In such a hurry to be stepped on by me?" On his face, he remained calm. "We can start any time." The referee saw this and nodded, stepping back from the stage, with a shout of "Start!" Hua Xianxia decisively seized the initiative. Proud moon crossing the sky. He executed a high-level, profound swordsmanship move, supplemented by his core formation realm cultivation. How powerful was it? Unmatchable by anyone below the core formation realm. Wang Yunj and Li Shiqian standing below the stage as peak foundation establishment realm powerhouses, felt the intensity of this move, and a heavy feeling arose in their hearts momentarily. Normally, Hua Xianxia was gentle and polite, but once he unleashed his full strength, it gave off a stormy, oppressive feeling. It made both feel a bit pressured. Yan Yuqing's heart leaped to her throat. Hua Xianxia struck with his full force right away, with no hesitation, unlike the arrogant Wang Yunj. It was clear that he intended to end the battle quickly with an overpowering force to defeat Jiang Fan. The Supreme Sect Master nodded in satisfaction. The elders praised continually. The Elder of Green Bamboo Peak also praised with a sense of comparison. After all, a true master trained by the sect master himself, setting aside strength. He treats every opponent seriously and cautiously, giving his all. Unlike my 2 proud disciples, whose carelessness brought them disgrace. The other elders criticized inwardly, understanding that the Elder of Green Bamboo Peak was trying to save face for his 2 disciples. Was their defeat due to carelessness? Wasn't it due to an absolute difference in strength? Of course, they also appreciated that Hua Xianxia used his full strength from the start. Because the quicker Jiang Fan fell, the stronger Hua Xianxia would appear, restoring the image of the Supreme Sect. But just at that moment, Jiang Fan also moved. His wrist shook and the long sword hummed. The spiritual power of Foundation Establishment's 7th layer at perfection gushed forth like a spring, infusing into the black sword. Splitting light sword. With a sweep of sword light, sword chi surged, transforming into a deafening thunder explosion. Unprepared, Hua Xianxia's ears buzzed instantly. The intense explosion's shockwave even deflected his sword strike. His expression changed and he exclaimed, "You know swordsmanship, you have cultivation." The disciples on the stage were also taken aback. My goodness, he's not purely a body refiner, he also cultivates realms. And his realm isn't low at Foundation Establishment's 7th layer perfection. Moreover, his swordsmanship is superior, even better than senior brother Hua's. Chai Yingrong was stunned. Yuqing, your uncle master practices dual cultivation of body and magic. Yuqing was also dumbfounded. Each time, Jiang Fan showed her a completely new side, as if he were an endless abyss possessing countless unexpected strengths. The relaxed Supreme Sect Master and several elders all showed expressions of surprise. This kid practices dual cultivation of body and magic. Moreover, both are extremely powerful. He isn't a disciple of the Giant Sect. The Giant Sect clumsily practices body techniques and doesn't cultivate spells. Quick, investigate who he really is. Which sect can produce such a disciple? An invincible physique below core formation, foundation establishment 7th layers high-level cultivation, as well as a strongly powerful, probably earth-level swordsmanship. When did the 9 sect land have such a disciple? The external commotion fell on deaf ears for Jiang Fan. Seizing the moment when Xianxia's sword stab was deflected, his sword entangled and he struck again. Sunrise over the sea? Xianxia's eyelids twitched and he wisely retreated, creating distance. The next moment, an even more explosive, thunderous sound nearly burst beside his ear. It made his eardrums ache. If he had been a bit closer, would it have burst his eardrums? He thought, feeling both shame and rage, that as the grand senior disciple of the Supreme Sect, he had been forced back by someone without a spirit root. He could no longer hold back. Eagles strike the sky. Jiang Fan was fearless and met him head-on. Heaven and earth star fall. Both displayed their most powerful swordsmanship, clashing on the stage. One held an overwhelming cultivation advantage, while the other had a superior swordsmanship. In a few short moments, they exchanged a dozen strikes without a clear winner. However, as Jiang Fan's spiritual power continued to deplete, the disadvantage of his lower cultivation began to show. The power of his swordsmanship gradually diminished. After 100 moves, Xianxia seized the moment when Jiang Fan's swordsmanship weakened, striking Jiang Fan's sword directly. His tiger's mouth burned with instant pain. Jiang Fan, not one to back down, activated the Phoenix Blood Treasure body in an instant. With his formidable strength, he resisted stubbornly. The result was both their swords were knocked out of their hands, falling to opposite sides of the stage. This outcome left everyone dumbfounded. The grand senior disciple of the Supreme Sect, surprisingly matched in swordsmanship. Xianxia also lost focus for a moment, then stared fixedly at Jiang Fan. At this moment, any thought of a swift battle was gone. All he wanted was to win against Jiang Fan. Realizing Jiang Fan's difficulty, he took a deep breath, his gaze sharpening. I intended to keep this as a trump card until challenging the gold list. Now I have no choice but to use it. He formed his hands into palm shapes, assuming a palm technique stance. In fact, my strongest isn't swordsmanship. Swordsmanship is merely a facade for others. My true forte is palm technique. Being able to force me to use my real skills, you are honored in your defeat. Thinking that Jiang Fan, who had lost his sword, would fear his ultimate skill. To his surprise, Jiang Fan smiled calmly. What a coincidence, me too, in Xianxia's shrinking pupils. Jiang Fan also assumed a palm technique stance.